ask everyone to silence their phones. Okay, we have no bid opening report tonight. We have 2 minutes, so anybody have anything they want to comment on an agenda item? Public comment is open. Public comment is closed. Okay, first thing on the agenda, we have Ms. Jean Stewart, authorization to solicit bids for construction of the Fairway Woodland Bridge Repair Project.
Good evening, Council. Principal Engineering Incorporated has completed the design for the Woodland Drive Bridge Repair Project and is ready to advertise for bids. The estimated construction cost of the repairs is $240,000, which will be funded through the 2014 bond issue. Administration recommends approval.
Okay, we have a motion for discussion.
Second the motion for discussion.
No, we need a first one.
Second that.
Okay, discussion.
Anybody has any questions?
I'll address the questions if there's a question.
Yes. Oh,
I'm sorry.
Councilman Snyder.
Thank you. Keep going back up. This project, my recollection is correct. Was that supposed to be a project that was done through the CDBG?
No, sir.
Was it, I thought I was told some time ago that this bridge was supposed to be a brand new bridge? Or that was the other one that was supposed to be a brand new bridge?
We actually, the two bridges were included in the same contract.
Right.
Woodland and Fairway, which Fairway was completed. They were both included in the 2014 bond issue. Together, they were considered one project. The Woodland Bridge was held up because we needed access while the bridge was out of service, but we were able to work with Belterre Land to get access temporarily on a servitude that belongs to the parish while the work is being done. But it was always funded through the bond issue.
Okay. I think this might have been on my part, a misunderstanding. We said, thank you, Fairway, the Woodland Bridge or Fairway Bridge.
Right.
I thought that was a bridge that they was examined, and through looking at it, repair wasn't going to be enough. They had to put a whole new bridge there.
Actually,
was that the bridge on Fairway?
Actually, there were two. You remember, we did attempt to get FEMA funding for the bridge, but they didn't, deem it eligible because some of those repairs were prior to the storm. However, after analyzing it further, the firm that was tasked with designing it actually came up with this recommendation. Prior to that, we had our public works director and a consulting firm look at the bridge for possible repairs. But it was one of the ones that we needed to repair.
Right.
And finally, we are, that's the last one of the bridges that will be done.
Okay. Thank you, ma'am.
Just a quick question. That's the bridge over the Vignet Canal, right?
Yes, it goes to the wastewater
yes,
treatment plant.
yes, okay.
And that's why we had to find an alternate route to keep that operational while the bridge is out of service.
Okay, great. Any more questions? Okay, use your lights.
That carries 8 in favor with 1 absent.
Okay, the next item we have is for Jean Stewart and Alex Carter, authorization to award the Historic Structures Survey Phase 2 of the Christopher Goodwin Associates Incorporated.
Thank you. Our Christopher Goodwin and Associates, Inc. of New Orleans, Louisiana was ranked first by the Source Selection Committee to complete historic standing structure surveys. The surveys address properties 50 years and older within the Reserve, Garyville, and LaPlace historic districts. The West Bank properties were previously completed. The contract document was reviewed by the funding entity and approved this afternoon, but due to the weather emergency, there was a delay in sending it to legal counsel for review. Administration recommends approval pending completion of their review.
Okay, can we get a motion? Ms. Remedy? Mr. Perilou, second. Any questions?
Yeah, I got questions, George. Cause I was reading this earlier, and what we are doing here is authorizing the award of the contract, award of the, not the contract, the contract will be worked out later,
Right.
right? So we just awarding this survey to this group.
Right, it's basically a subcontract. So we've already have an agreement with the state to complete this survey, and we're contracting with a historic preservation firm to complete the surveys within these 3 districts.
So we make an addendum to the original contract?
That's why we had to send it to the funding source. So the state has approved this contract. They're funding 50% of the work.
Is this thing time sensitive?
Yes, it is. It's the work has to be completed and all invoices paid by June 30th.
June 30th?
Yes.
Will it be that much of a delay if we let our legal people look at this, then before we approve this or approve this on?
The only issue, and the source selection committee reviewed these. We received these proposals right after Christmas. We set up the source selection committee on January 9th or 10th. Reviewed them very quickly to try and get everything together to make this recommendation tonight, because the actual scope of work when it was originally approved as a resolution, the work was supposed to start on January 15th. So we're already behind. We're trying to give the firm as much time as possible to complete these surveys in the district, because it does require on the ground efforts by the firm. And so 4 months we've had a couple firms actually drop out because the time constraint was too small for them to complete the work. So I would say, administration recommends approval for that reason. We wouldn't put you guys in this position if we thought we could, get more time out of this.
And just for clarification, Mrs. Snyder, we wouldn't sign it until the legal has reviewed and said it's legally sufficient. We just don't want to wait 2 weeks to come back and then do it again. So when we ask that you do this, we worked 1 day last week. The rest was focused on weather, so we are behind. So I'll just let y'all know that now. We just didn't get that document to them, but we did get word back today from the state that the document itself meets their requirements, so we can send it to legal.
So you say you're not gonna sign it until
Right.
we have our legal people had a chance to really
Yes, sir.
look at the addendum on it? Okay. All right, thank you.
And that's typically, like, we don't sign them until they have given us a clearance in terms of it being legally sufficient.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, we have any questions? Mr. Madar?
Yes, when you say this involves some out in the field
Yes.
survey?
Yes.
So they're gonna go and look at these structures, these homes?
Yes, and one of their tasks in the initial kickoff meeting is to contact the sheriff's office and make sure they coordinate efforts and let people know they're going to be out and who they are.
Okay.
So people aren't who are these people on our street?
So I mean,
They're
they're
out taking
going,
pictures.
they're going by every one of those structures that was listed?
Right.
Okay, all right.
Any more questions? Okay, use your lights.
That carries 8 in favor with 1 absent.
Okay, the next item we have is Gene Stewart and Alex Carter. Authorization to award the CDBG Grant Demolition Clearance Program to DLH Contracting LLC.
DLH Contracting LLC of Slidell, Louisiana was ranked first out of 8 proposals received by the Source Selection Committee to demolish and clear 11 uninhabited properties. This project was approved by the Office of Community Development, OCD, and the Louisiana Housing Corporation, LHC, and is fully funded by the Hurricane Isaac Community Development Block Grant. The project provides a direct mechanism to remove blighted properties to enhance neighborhoods, vitality, and property values. The contract was sent to legal counsel for review, and it was determined to be legally sufficient. The contract document was also reviewed by OCD. Administration recommends approval.
Okay, we heard from administration. Can I get a motion?
Everybody.
Yeah, first by Mr. Becknell and second by Mr. Madar. Any questions? Mr. Madar?
Okay. I think you said it was a total of 11
Yes.
properties?
Yes, sir.
Okay, you don't have a list of 11 properties, do you?
Yes, sir.
it was provided with us to us?
I think on page 19 through 32, it actually is listed in the contract.
Because well, you know, there's a few. Well, I'm concerned about all of them, but there was a few that I had some special concern about, and I received some information from Ms. Carter. I just want to make sure that we follow through with this time, because this particular property that I'm talking about, I've been told several times that
It's
it was
on
coming
page
down.
26.
Yeah, it's on there. Okay, but I've been told several times before that it was coming down, and it's still up there. So I want to make sure. Okay, I will definitely be making sure on those.
Once again, Mr. Madere, we're under a time frame for spending these dollars. Remember, it was part of the original CDBG grant that we have to have closed out by 2019. It was very specific properties that each firm bid on, and you can see at least one of the ones you were interested in is listed. And we have a time frame to get these demolished and finalized, which again caused some of the proposers to drop out because they couldn't get it done as quickly as was needed. But this is the list. This is one that I think several of you had complained about previously. We're very fortunate. It's going to be 100% paid for by grant funding, so there's no cost to the parish, and we're fairly anxious to get these 11 properties down as well.
Yeah, my only disappointment in this is, and it's probably no fault of the parish, is that was requested by an individual that lived next door to that property in 2012, and unfortunately he didn't live long enough to see it happen, and that's the only thing that bothered me about that particular process, because I mean I was on that building since 2012. It's just not happening, you know. It's going to be good for the neighborhood, you know, but I'm just sorry I wasn't able to get it done before this untimely death. Okay, thank you.
Okay, we have any more questions? Okay, use your lights.
That carries 8 in favor with 1 absent, sir.
Okay, the next item we have is Deron Cooper and Mara Para. The authorization to amend the contract with Burhart Horn Incorporated for the Reserve Drainage Project Phase 3.
Good evening, Council. This amendment in the amount of $20,000 is for engineering support and additional construction administration for the project due to an expanded scope of work and delays beyond the control of the engineering firm. The additional amount will be funded through the 2014 bond issue. The amendment document was sent to legal counsel for review, and administration recommends approval pending completion of their review.
Okay, is there a motion? Ms. Julia Ramade first, and Mr. Perillo second. Any questions?
Yes.
Mr. Madere?
Yes, okay, this project is located in my district, and I didn't make a motion or second it because I disagree with the $20,000. And the reason why I disagree with the $20,000, this project, when it started phase 3, okay, we was told it was doing 4 streets in St. John Parish, and I thought it was from the back of the street all the way to the river road. Then we found out it wasn't all the way from the river to the river road, it was going to Sweet Lorraine. And then found out it wasn't going to Sweet Lorraine, it was short of Sweet Lorraine. Okay, so when I questioned it about Sweet Lorraine, I was told in a meeting that the project didn't have enough funding to go all the way to Sweet Lorraine, but also in that same meeting, they said they had a surplus of $500,000. And so I questioned, how could you be short of going to Sweet Lorraine if you got $500,000 left over? So after various meetings and complaints about it, we all know how many times we talked about Sweet Lorraine at this meeting. Everybody in the parish should know where Sweet Lorraine is now. They agreed to go ahead and finish it up to Sweet Lorraine. And now we're asking for an additional $20,000. And it said something about moving lines and everything. All that should have been in the original design to move telephone posts and everything else. So I need an explanation how we get to $20,000.
Good evening. Mira Parr with Bugard Horn. Sir, in answer to your question, everything was included in the original design. This additional is for delays in the construction phase that were beyond the contractor's control, specifically for water lines, issues with the water line in the area where there were two leaks that were existing in that area that they uncovered during construction, and those delays extended the project a considerable amount of time, and the contractor actually added that construction to his project, and we oversaw that. So it's the additional effort associated with overseeing that extension of the time that we're asking for the additional funds for, not anything associated with the original design or with extending the project to Sweet Lorraine. Right, so when the contractor began work on the extensions to extend the pipe to Sweet Lorraine, they uncovered some existing leaks in the system, in the parish's water supply system, and basically the water was bubbling up and coming out through the ditch. And when we did our walkthrough, substantial completion walkthrough, we asked the contractor to investigate those leaks, and at the direction of the parish, they were asked to go ahead and make those changes to address those leaks and fix those leaks. It really had nothing to do with the project itself or with the any work that the contractor had already performed. So those leaks were added, or investigating and fixing those leaks were added to the project, and the contractor performed that, was paid, I think is being paid through the utilities department for that work.
All right.
Any other questions?
I think we took advantage of them being on site and mobilized to fix something that they typically do. It wasn't part of the contract, but it would have been easier for the contractor on site to fix it rather than us going out and getting another one. So we just added it to the yes.
Mr. Snyder?
Was that the same, I'm sorry. Didn't they put a block valve in or something too, someplace in the area of Sweet Lorraine and another street?
Yes, that's correct. It was at the corner of Sweet Lorraine and Melius and Sweet Lorraine and 24th, and between those two streets. Basically, there were a number of valves that when they closed all the valves, the water still was not shut off, so they ended up having to put an inserter valve in. There was a lot of investigation and uncovering the water line associated with all of that.
Okay, good.
Any more questions? Use your lights.
That carries 8 in favor with 1 absent.
Okay, the next item we have is Deron Cooper, authorization to amend the contract with Trade Kirkendale and Associates Incorporated for the Vic-Nair Canal project.
Yes, we're going to ask that you table this item. If you look at the end of the explanation, there was an option either to move forward or table. We did receive information this afternoon from the consulting engineer that the scope of work does satisfy the grant application. Just a quick refresher, the council approved a resolution allowing us to go after a state flood control grant, which would provide 90%, can provide up to 90% of the construction cost, which is anticipated to be $4 million toward the project. However, those funds cannot be used for engineering. They can only be used toward construction. So we were requesting that the required additional work be paid for out of the bond issue, and any grant funds would go toward construction. Now, keep in mind, we cannot submit the application for the grant until the amendments are done, which is there was a requirement to do some additional topo surveying, not just in the project site, but they have to go out in the community, and also to do a hydraulic and hydrology study. That was not part of our original project, but those are all required components to even apply for the grant. So we did have the consulting engineer review the scope, and it's fine, but we're gonna have some additional meetings with Mr. Shred and hopefully bring this back to you all. But we do need this work done in order to make application for the additional dollars. I think several of us were at the Police Jury Association meeting where this was brought to our attention as a possibility. However, it can only be used for construction, so the parish has to pay for the hydrology model and the surveying.
Okay, well, we need a motion to table. Motion, Mr. Perilou, second, Mr. Wright. Use your lights.
That carries 8 in favor with 1 absent.
Okay, the next item we have is Blake Fogelman. Authorization to execute a time extension with Curtis Environmental Services for environmental consulting services.
Thank you, Chairman. This time extension for 1 year to continue services for water and wastewater consultation, sampling, and testing to meet state and federal requirements with no increase to rates. The extension document was reviewed by the legal counsel and it was determined to be legally sufficient, and administration recommends approval.
Okay, can I get a motion? Mr. Mr. Ramade, Mr. Wright. Any questions? Use your lights.
That carries 8 in favor with 1 absent.
Thank you.
Okay, next item we have is Stacy Kador. Authorization to renew the fire department's package policy with VFIS.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and good evening, Council. This renewal through Riverlands Insurance Services Incorporated includes general liability, management liability, automobile coverage, coverage for portable equipment, and umbrella excess liability coverage for the parish's fire departments and the Office of Fire Services. The renewal has an annual premium of $229,103, which is a 3% increase over the expiring premium. The policy is specific to firefighters and is only offered by a limited number of carriers. The premium will be paid by the Office of Fire Services budget. Administration recommends approval.
Okay, we heard from administration. Get a motion.
Oh, and Mr. Rolo added that it's property insurance as well. I'm sorry.
Okay, Mr. Malik, Mr. Becknell. Any questions? Mr. Snyder?
Will we have to amend that budget?
No, sir.
We don't? Why not?
We actually plan for slight increases in the next year. We anticipate that with insurance. So we assumed we would get a slight increase and budgeted for it. Typically, insurances go up.
Usually more than 3%.
Yeah, so we budget.
What do we budget for? How many percent? 3%? 10%? 1%? Everybody goes up? I mean, it's all paying. I mean, that's what they want.
It's usually like about 3%, to be honest with you. Sometimes 3 to 5. Just, we were very fortunate to get a 0, but in one of our areas. But we typically will budget about 3 to 5%. And of course, when it doesn't come in, it just rolls back into the fund balance.
Okay, we have any more questions? Use your lights.
That carries 8 in favor with 1 absent.
Thank you.
Can I get a motion to adjourn?
Mr. Wright,
Mr. Wright, Mr. Ramade.
and that carries.
And that carries.
Natalie Robotham, proclamation February Black History Month.
Yes, this is one of our annual proclamations in preparation for Black History Month. And the proclamation reads, whereas each year beginning February the 1st, the month of February is celebrated as Black History Month throughout the United States of America. And whereas Black History Month, an annual celebration, honors and affirms the history and contributions of African Americans. And whereas the history of people of African heritage goes back thousands of years, its past, present, and future is rich and diverse and includes some of the greatest, most advanced, and innovative societies in the history of human existence. And whereas racial discrimination is no longer the steepest obstacle to opportunity for most African Americans, remnants of the past continue to create stumbling blocks. And whereas we recognize and have great appreciation for the amazing achievements of African Americans whose contributions are beyond measure. And whereas in honor of the contributions made by African Americans throughout St. John the Baptist Parish and the United States of America, we ask that you join us in celebrating the diversity and character of our wonderful community and set aside a special time to acknowledge this important segment of the citizens of our community and their history. Now, therefore, I, Natalie Robotham, Parish President, in conjunction with St. John the Baptist Parish Council members, do hereby proclaim the month of February 2018 as Black History Month in St. John the Baptist Parish and call upon all public officials, educators, librarians, and citizens to join us in celebrating the diversity and character of our community.
Okay, thank you. Any comments? Okay. Next on the agenda is also Ms. Natalie Robotham, proclamation February Heart Healthy Month.
Yes, this is also another very important month as well with regard to heart awareness. And the proclamation reads, whereas the month of February is American Heart Awareness Month and is dedicated to raising awareness about heart disease and increasing knowledge about prevention. And whereas heart disease is the leading cause of death for both men and women in the United States. And whereas every year 1 in 4 deaths are caused by heart disease. And whereas the risk factors for heart disease are smoking, high blood pressure, high cholesterol, high triglyceride levels, overweight, obesity, physical inactivity, diabetes, and a family history of early heart disease, age, and a history of preeclampsia. And whereas making healthy choices, managing health conditions, and getting active lowers the risk of developing heart disease. And whereas St. John the Baptist Parish encourages residents to prevent and control risk factors and to take action to make heart health a priority for themselves and their families. Now, therefore, I, Natalie Robotham, Parish President, in conjunction with St. John the Baptist Parish Council members, do hereby proclaim the month of February 2018 as Heart Health Awareness Month in St. John the Baptist Parish.
Okay, thank you. Any comments? Okay. Next on the agenda is Ms. Natalie Robotham, recognition of Shop Local St. John Trivia winner, Sherry Williams, Trucia Martin, Audrey Evans, Hope Snowdy, LaLacia Julian, and LaShanti Fisher.
Okay, we actually have Miss Trucy Martin here. Please come up. This is the trivia game that's mailed out every December. It encourages all of our residents to complete the questionnaire. What we repeatedly find is people find out about businesses that are here that they may not have been aware of. Each person who completes the trivia game submits it to our office, and from that list, individuals are pulled. Many of our small businesses actually donate prizes that are given away. You can see this beautiful basket that includes a lot of St. John paraphernalia as well. We do thank you for participating. Usually it's a great opportunity for our residents to kind of learn some of the other businesses. We do alternate, try to change them up every year, and we're just pleased to have participation, and we thank you for coming to receive your prize. Would you like to add anything?
It's been a week that I've won something 2 Saturdays in a row, and I'm never one that wins anything, but I appreciate the opportunity to participate.
Great, thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right. You want to say something, Sam? You want to say something? Okay. Next on the agenda is Ms. Natalie Roboto, recognition of the 2017 Southeast Louisiana Football League Super Bowl champion St. John Warriors, 9 and 10-year-old, and runner-up 5 and 6 years old. Hey, come around.
Tell them to come around this way
Come around.
so that the people can see you on TV. Keep going, buddy. There you go.
Keep coming.
Come on around back, y'all, so the people can see y'all on TV.
Keep going.
They need to come up a little bit, Raphael.
Good job, y'all.
Some of y'all want to go this side? How about over here?
He said they never been on TV. I said, leave. I'm telling you, y'all. I'll be on TV.
There you go.
Okay, you guys are so well behaved. Thank you for coming, and most of you will get to see yourselves on TV for a while. And it never goes away, and after it stops playing on television, you can go online and access it on our website. So we're very proud of you. Thanks to all of you for coming. We'll start with our 5 and 6 year olds. We do want to congratulate the St. John Warriors Red Team as 2017 Southeast Louisiana Football League Super Bowl runner-ups. They lost barely with a score of 22-16 to the undefeated Plaquemines Renegades. But we're still extremely proud of you. We know that's just motivation for you to come back next year, and we're looking forward to seeing you there. Most of you all know this took place prior to December. I think we'd spoken to Coach Neal, and we had some trouble getting everybody in, but we didn't want to forget you, and obviously you're here today. And again, we just want to let you know that we're extremely proud. This team beat the DeVille Tigers 6-0 to advance to the Super Bowl game and became the only team to score on Plaquemines Renegades all season. They lost in the Super Bowl on the last possession of the game after leading the entire game. So big congrats to our 5 and 6 year old Warriors. Red coaching staff includes head coach Mr. Raphael Neal, assistant coaches Robert Williams. Can y'all raise your hand? Andrew Jackson, Terrence Connor Sr., Nick Joseph, and team mom Chandra Bird Joseph. She here? Yes. Always have to have those team moms. I was one of those for a long time, and of course you couldn't do it without the support of your parents, who are all here and extremely proud of you. I know they have to transport you to practices, to games, and feed you and pick you up and do homework after. So again, we want to thank them for encouraging you all to play. And of course, I'm going to ask that our council members address the 5 and 6 year olds, and then we'll move on to the 9 and 10.
Okay, Mr. Mallett.
Congratulations to all you guys. We had some other folks in here, some other kids in here, our last meeting was West St. John. And, if you take a look at those guys and what you've accomplished, you can be up here with them. So remember, you know, you're the only one that set what your limitations are. And if you have no cap to your limitations, you can do anything that you desire. Along with the adults in your life that are your parents who will help you along the way, as well as your mom and dad. So congratulations, all y'all deserve a good run of applause.
Mr. Perriman?
Mr. Malik, I couldn't say that much better, so I'm gonna be short. I'm gonna say congratulations to the parents, because I know what a job it is. I had 5 kids that played the sports from 5 years old on up to 18 and still playing. And congratulations to the coaches, spending time with these kids, motivating them, showing them the fundamentals of football. And congratulations to the kids, much success on the field and more success in the classroom. So continued success.
Mr. Wright.
Thanks. Just want to say congratulations. Thank you for representing St. John well. It was certainly a team effort, and I don't mean just with your fellow teammates, but also your parents and your coaches. So thank you all.
Mr. Snyder.
Thank you, sir. Congratulations, guys. Good season. All we gotta do now is hit the books and pass. I remember when I used to coach just 5 or 6 years old. The biggest problem I had was when they make a tackle to get up off the ground because the helmet was so big. Couldn't get off the ground, you know. And so that's a feat right there in itself. Hey, Team Mom, this is somebody everybody calls. All the parents call Team Mom. All the coaches call Team Mom. She gets blessed with things that she shouldn't be blessed with, but she's got to be there because she's what they call her, Mom. All right. So congratulations, guys. Congratulations, Mom. Congratulations, coaches. Y'all did a great job. Thank you.
Okay, Ms. Julia.
Congratulations to all of you and to the coaches and the parents. Great job. Thank you.
Mr. Becknell.
Congratulations to you guys and the parents and the team mom and everybody. I'm extremely proud of y'all. It made me very proud to be representing Councilman at St. John, and with guys like y'all got a bright future ahead of y'all.
Mr. Sarapu.
Congratulations, everybody. Keep up the good work, and you guys went the distance, and this is only the beginning. Congratulations.
Okay, my comment is a lot of people thought that Louisiana didn't get a Super Bowl champion when the Saints lost out, but that's not true. We have a Super Bowl champion right here tonight. Okay, with these kids here. First of all, I want to thank the parents, okay, for the hard work and dedication to support their kids, because any person that succeeds in life have someone pushing them, and it's the parents that's involved in that, and also the coaches. I know how hard it is to get a team together and how much work it takes, to get them to a certain level. And sportsmanship and everything else is very important. And education, and these young men behind us are going to be future leaders. Come right here, have a seat. Come here. Come here, have a seat.
Okay.
Okay.
Mr. Mario, sit on right here.
All right, so you have some future leaders right here. You can put some over there too, because they don't have to be councilmen. They can be parish president and anything they want. Okay, so it's just the first step in their life, and we're glad that they was able to do it representing St. John the Baptist Parish. Let's move on.
Very good.
There you go.
All right. And of course, we do want to congratulate our 9 and 10-year-olds, St. John Warriors Red. They're the 2017 Southeast Louisiana Football League Super Bowl champions. The team went 10-0 without giving up a single point all season. That is a feat. Total points scored, 183, and allowed 0. So that's amazing in itself. And, we didn't bring this up, but one of our goals was to have football under the parish's umbrella. And I do want to thank all the teams. We previously had private teams, and it took us a little while to get on the same page. And I'm not saying we're exactly where we want to be. We're so pleased to have you as part of the recreational program now, and we want to continue to grow and improve. And it's considered one other goal that was met. And we want to thank y'all for y'all assistance in getting us there, and we're going to need you to help keep you there. So again, we'll continue on with our head coach, Brian KB Armstrong. Albert Duck Lasty. Richard Brown. Devin Coach Fat Gitra. Now I'm going to tell y'all something. When I go through my public works crew, I have to put the real names next to the nicknames. You guys are close, okay? Almost your whole coaching staff has nicknames. So we'll keep going here. Cohen Nelson. Okay. Mr. David Cset Sr. And we do have some other team moms. Team mom Tiffany Phillip and Trinessa Guitros. And we have a team granny. Team Granny Stephanie Phillip. And we all know that, you know, it's such a great feeling to have your family there to support you, not only on the field, but they're here to support you tonight. Again, we're just so proud of you, and I know this is the beginning. As was mentioned previously, we've had state champions here before, and many times they started right here. They started with youth football, and they continued their training, and they couldn't do it without the help of good coaches teaching you basic fundamentals and staying in your life. Like I look at Mr. Neal, he doesn't have any kids this age, but he's still helping coach. That's what's important to us, that we get volunteers outside of just the parents who are committed to the program, not just to their child. So again, congratulations to all of you, and do you guys want to say something again, the council members, or are you good?
Everyone deserves their little shine.
Well, we're very proud of you, and of course, obviously, we'll let Mr. Neal or Mr. Armstrong come up and say some words about their team and their season.
Let me go first, because I have 5 and 6 year olds. Good evening, everyone. Learning starts with what? Learning starts with what? Team means what? And when we become that team, we become what? Guys, learning starts with listening. That's the basic core of fundamentals where it comes to life skills that we teach the kids. Last year, we stood here with the 7 and 8 year old kids, and some of those same kids are now 9 and 10 year old kids, and all they do is get better. But some of those 9 and 10 year old kids that are here before you today were once 5 and 6 year olds. And they have those same principles that we're instilling in these young men. Because when you talk about learning, starting with listening, it's not just on the football field. It's in the classroom. And they get that. And they know it's not about individual play, it's about team play. And when they get that, and together each accomplish more, they know once you become that team, then you become champion. So what happened last year wasn't a fluke. What happened this year, with that team being able to play 10 games and not giving up any points, and dominating everyone and winning that Super Bowl, nobody in the 20 years that I've been coaching have ever done that. And guess what? Most of those kids come back to 9 and 10 year old next year. And some of them move up to 11 and 12. The proud thing I'm here to say today that, you know, in joining forces with the parish, with Carrie and the recreation department, it makes it so much easier in doing football. So Carrie, man, appreciate it. Doing an outstanding job, you know, with it. We're gonna say keep it going, because for the first time in 10 years, all 3 teams, and I was running the St. John Heat Youth Organization for the first time in the last 10 years. All 3 teams made it to the playoffs and played to go to the Super Bowl, including the 5 and 6 year olds. So make that 4 years. That hadn't happened for us. Because when you're trying to run things and you're worrying about getting a helmet, you're worrying about getting a shoulder pads, you're worrying about keeping a team mom, you're worrying about keeping kids, that's difficult. But when you got a whole parish working together to get that done, it's so much easier. So now I'm with you. We have to keep it going for the sake of these kids. And they will be state champions. Now, when it happened with the Saints, I wasn't disappointed. Let me tell you. Why? It happened to my kids. It happened. Last play of the game. Look, we got this. We make one tackle, we're Super Bowl champion. We make one tackle, we're Super Bowl champion. We missed that tackle. We didn't make that tackle. But you know what? I'm like, God, we scored 16 points on this team, and nobody ever scored a point on them. And we was one play away. One play away. So guess what? Next year, we're going to make that play. Thank you all. Hey, we're going to ask for y'all continued support of these kids, and it's going to only grow and get better. Thank you.
Good evening, good evening. Guys, we know what I'm saying. Learning starts with what? Listening. We have 3 goals that I preach to these kids from starting in June at the park. And I know we gave praise to Kerry, but I also want to give praise to Lamont Dickham. He was a big, support into what we were doing, equipment and all that stuff. Remember we had a couple of meetings, Mr. Snyder was there. So we jump-started this, and the kids, they fell in love with what we were doing. We had 3 goals all year, guys. What were those goals? We had basically alignment, assignment. They live by that code. And I live by that code too because I'm ex-military. So that's what we kind of went through. Alignment, assignment, do your job. Each one of these kids, I had 40 kids on our roster. And they all did their job. And that's why we became, what we didn't mention, legendary. There's no 9 and 10 team in America has done that. We're undefeated, nobody scored, and we scored, we really scored at will. So, I thank you guys. I miss football, But most of you kids know already, I'm coaching adults now, like a semi-pro. I wish we can bring semi-pro to this area too, but hey, it's another agenda. Another goal. Yeah, another goal. And what it does, the kids, I love y'all. Hey, I expect to see these kids, East St. John, Riverside, St. Charles, wherever y'all go. Got a couple people I know, Newman, can't wait for Jackson Fields. So he actually comes from the city to play for us. So I appreciate y'all guys. I miss you. But again, thank you, Council, for this moment. Hey guys, before we go, we got to show them what we do. Always give. Thank y'all very much.
All right, before we give that trophy out, each group deserves, like I said, their own recognition. So we're going to start on this side, Mr. Sarapu.
You guys did a great job. A lot of discipline and dedication on your part. Keep up the good work, and we're all proud of you.
I said it once and I'm going to say it again. I'm extremely proud of y'all. Congratulations on a great job.
Again, congratulations, and you're setting a great example for the younger boys. Thank you.
Mr. Snyder.
Thank you guys, congratulations, and I like to get our high school team that defensive coordinator you got.
Okay, Mr. Wright.
Congratulations, guys. Job well done. We look forward to seeing you back next year.
Mr. Pearl.
Again, congratulations. Look to see y'all at the Superdome at the high school you're going to attend. And a shout out to the parents, but a big shout out to Team Granny. Thank you. Thank you.
Mr. Mallett.
Just once again, congratulations. Thank you.
Okay, I just want to say, Mr. Pearl here on the note when he said, shout out to Team Granny, okay, because it's a lot of work, it's a lot of dedication, and the most impressive thing to me that these coaches have done with these kids is instill in them the work ethic it takes to be successful. And the key thing is, I used to always say as an ex-teacher, there's a difference between listening and hearing, okay? If you listen, you're going to learn. Because you can hear things, but if you're not listening to it, it's not going to stick up in here. So these kids are actually listening and putting what they learn to work in life and on the field, and that's why they're successful. And if you continue to do that, success will follow you all the days of your life. Thank you all very much. To the coaches and everyone.
I know, with one for each year. I know, really nice.
Hey, thank y'all.
Absolutely.
Okay. How, I mean, any time frame?
What we're looking to do is identify. We want to identify that before this year's festival, and primarily because it's going to help us be able to continue to sell the festival. Whenever you can talk about the return on investment, and so absolutely, we're looking to make sure we do that before the summer's out.
Okay, and just keep us posted, because that's, obviously a number that's not included in here. And indirect revenue is obviously a big thing for St. John, especially when we're promoting tourism, not just with the Andouille Festival, but anything we do when we promote, we got to look at that indirect return on investment also.
All right, next on the agenda is consent agenda item. Okay, number one is approval of minutes for January 9th, 2018 regular meeting. Councilman Mader, reappointment of Linda Ralph Farlow to the South Central Louisiana Human Service Authority. Councilman Mader, appointment of Eloise Joseph to the Library Board of Control. Number 4, permit approval of crew of Tawapasaw Parade, Saturday, February 10th, 2018, beginning at noon. 5, permit approval of the 45th Annual Crew of Demand Parade, Sunday, February 11, 2018, beginning at 11 a.m. Permit approval of Kids of Distinction Daycare Mardi Gras Parade, Monday, February 12, 2018, beginning at 11 a.m. in Cambridge Subdivision. Entertain a motion for consent agenda. Motion by Mr. Pearl, second by Mr. Sarapru. Any comments? Oh, open to the public for comments. Okay. Any comments from the council? Okay, use your lights, please.
That carries 8 in favor with 1 absent.
I carry 8 in favor with 1 absent. Okay. All right, next is a public hearing and ordinance. Okay. First ordinance 18-01, an ordinance authorizing Nelly Robotham, President of St. John the Baptist Parish, to execute an act for donation accepting a parcel of land containing the Bell Point Lift Station on behalf of St. John the Baptist Parish under such other terms and conditions deemed fit and proper by the parish president in her discretion and upon review by legal counsel.
Thank you, Chairman. Delta Land Services LLC desires to donate the tract of land that includes an existing sewer lift station. This donation would permit utility staff necessary and legal access to the existing station. The ordinance and supporting documents were reviewed by legal counsel and determined to be legally sufficient. The administration recommends approval.
Okay, you heard from administration. Okay, a motion by Mr. Sarabru, second by Mr. Pearlou. Okay, open to the public. No comments, close. Council. Have any questions? Okay, use your lights, please.
That carries 8 in favor with 1 absent.
I carry 8 in favor with 1 absent. Okay. Committee reports. Mr. Sarabru. I'll make a motion.
Yes, ask that we accept the minutes from the finance meeting.
Okay, motion by Mr. Sarabru, second by Mr. Snyder. Okay, any questions, comments? Use your lights, please.
That carries 8 in favor with 1
I
absent.
carry 8 in favor and 1 absent. Okay, there's no old business, new business. New business, Lennox Mader, February 13, 2018, council meeting date change. Okay, because the meeting gonna fall on the Mardi Gras, so that's why we're making the change. Okay, and okay, entertain them. Okay. All right. Motion by Ms. Remedy.
What is it?
To move it to Wednesday. Okay. They make a motion. Say it, Julie.
Y'all didn't want to do it at 12 o'clock, like noon? No.
That's fine.
We could do that.
We
That
can
would
do
work.
it. This is
Wednesday.
fine. This is fine.
Move it to Wednesday at noon, which is February 14th. 14th.
Valentine's Day and Ash Wednesday, yes.
Yes,
So move it to the 4th.
February
noon.
14th at noon.
In the council chambers in La Plaza.
Right. Okay. Second by Mr. Pearl. Okay, use your lights, please.
That carries 8 in favor with 1 absent.
8 in favor and 1 absent. Okay. Next on the agenda is Ms. Nellie Robotham, Resolution R18-01, a resolution adopting the Louisiana Compliance Questionnaire as a required part of St. John the Baptist Parish annual fiscal, financial, and compliance audit.
Yes, this is an annual request that we are required to perform before we can start the audit. The resolution enables the parish president to complete the compliance questionnaire as a required component of the 2017 financial and compliance audit. Administration recommends approval.
Okay, you heard from administration. Motion by Ms. Remedy. Need a second? Second by Mr. Pearl. Any questions? Okay, use your lights, please.
That carries 8 in favor with 1 absent.
8 in favor with 1 absent. Okay, next on the agenda is also Ms. Natalie Robotham, Resolution R18-02, a resolution requesting the authorizing the Department of Planning, Zoning, and Planning Commission to conduct a study of the text of Chapter 111, Subdivision, and Chapter 113, Zoning, as well as the official zoning map of the parish, specifically those provisions related to subdivision procedures, development, and infrastructure standards, supplemental standards, zoning district standards, and localization of zoning district with the intent of encouraging rural development and clarifying subdivision procedures, as well to provide for related matters.
Thank you, Council Chairman. This resolution would authorize the department to conduct a study to update subdivision guidelines and promote construction of cost-efficient housing by encouraging developers to use subdivision design techniques that minimize street, water, sewer, and other utility development costs. Proposed amendments will be accompanied by changes to the zoning map to accurately reflect the existing and future development patterns of the parish. Administration recommends approval.
Okay, you heard from administration. Stand motion. Motion by Mr. Begnell, second by Ms. Remedy. Okay, any questions? Mr. Pearl.
Alex, how would this affect existing subdivisions?
It would.
Just for new ones?
Right. It would be put in place in areas, so it would be for new requests. And the idea is that right now we get a lot of requests just for simple things like houses or an addition, and some areas of the parish were never formally subdivided. And so what these regulations are going to attempt to do is find a middle ground between your full subdivision approval that we have in areas like Laplace, and then areas that were never subdivided, so their standards just don't meet the parish codes. So right now our hands are sort of tied, and we have one answer, which is you have to meet these higher standards in Laplace. So we're going to search for solutions that find a middle ground to that, so that we can see some improvement that's not out of reach in some of these areas.
Okay, because I'm just wondering, I know we always, subdivisions that hasn't completely developed, and we give them extension another 12 months, so that won't affect that at all.
Right, it wouldn't affect that unless they lost that, so unless they expired. So
Okay.
I would say make sure, just like we tell all of our developers, if you've got an extension, make sure you keep an eye on that, make sure you come in and get it extended. Any updates would affect any expiration.
Okay.
Okay, Ms. Robotham?
Yes, and what Alex is, won't be able to do anything without coming back to you all. I think what we're trying to avoid is many times we have to bring variances to you because, roads are substandard, lots are substandard, and we can't legally allow them to do things without bringing it before you. So what she wants to do is a study to look at those types of properties, and if adopted by the council, then those people wouldn't have to do an additional step and pay an additional fee to come get a variance when their property does not meet the depth or width because it's located in a rural area and won't meet the subdivision requirements that were set on this side of the road.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Snyder.
Ms. Alex, how would that affect real rural areas of St. John Parish?
Right.
As far as, areas in West St. John and on the East Bank, on the West Bank.
Right.
How would that affect that area? Because I'm not quite visualizing what we're trying to do here.
And I think that's okay because this is the start. The idea is that we're gonna put together a proposal and it's gonna be in a very loose format. You know, we're not gonna push something that the community is not in support of. So we're gonna start big picture and then we're gonna whittle down with what is accepted, what people are willing to do. That doesn't compromise the long-term integrity of development in the parish, right? We always have to maintain some sort of standard, and I want to make sure the public understands we're not creating a loophole. We're trying to find something that is attainable in areas that have developed without subdivision regulations, where right now there's no bar. There's just one standard. So it's an alternative. And so for areas that are really rural, if there was a desire to map these because this is going to be mapped, right? So that part of this is to look at the zoning code, and a lot of it is going to be about areas that are already like this. So we'll look at the map and say these are areas that weren't formally subdivided. These standards could apply in these places because there are hardships, and we're going to recognize that with this. And that's what I think Natalie's getting at, is that it's meant to address existing conditions for the most part. If it's like a greenfield area, we would not suppose or presume that people would desire it unless it was requested during the course of the study. So if council members or if members of the public said, we would love to see this type of development here in this green field, we would consider it, but it's not something that we're coming out the door assuming.
Well, will the public have some input to this?
Oh, absolutely.
Or some time where they can come look at and listen at what you
Yes.
trying to do?
They're this is it's a year-long study. We want to start it now, right? And so we're looking at multiple meetings with developers, with our neighborhood and community development president's advisory committee. But I would say, you know, if there are interested people in the community that have an interest in this, feel free to reach out to our office. I would love to know who you are, what your contact information is, and have maybe a subcommittee of people who I know are interested particularly in this. So we want to make sure at every level we reach the public with these things, because I'm acutely aware that I'm not from St. John the Baptist Parish. So we want to treat this with every sensitivity to make sure we get it right. And we don't compromise any long-term development in the parish with this proposal, but address the issues that we continue to experience when people come in and want to do something, and we really only have one hard answer that doesn't allow any flexibility.
Will we take in consideration green area, water retentions, things like that, in developing these? All of those things is some of the reasons why we're doing this.
Yes. So we are and it's funny that you mentioned that. We are working on the parking study. We're gonna try and submit it to Wagner and Ball, who is our consultants for LA Safe, to have them look at it, to see if we're doing enough stormwater management. So at every opportunity, we're trying to incorporate standards that are manageable for our smaller staff, but also feasible for the public. And we would take that same approach with the subdivision study.
Okay.
Yes, Mr. Snyder already addressed the question I had, but I think this is a very good approach to take. I think it's long overdue. I think it's going to serve a good purpose for the next 20 years. We still have a lot of growth, especially on the west bank of the river, for green space that's there to grow and develop. But as Mr. Snyder said, we want to make sure we have public input from each community, get churches involved with whether they're on a committee or not. Let them have some input. Take your time, and I think this is a wonderful thing to happen. And thank you for bringing this up.
Of course. Thank you.
Mr. Mallett?
Yeah, thank you. Just real quick, minimize design techniques that minimize street, water, sewer, and other utility development costs. So you're talking about the actual construction?
Yes. So like right now, we require like a 40-foot right of way
Yeah.
in our subdivision standards. On the West Bank, you have streets that are just 10 feet wide, and that's the right of way. So we have to find a solution that fits the constraints that those areas already exist within. That's manageable. So that's where, when I say it's about existing development, it's lowering standards, but it's not going to be pushing those in greenfield areas. It's going to be trying to find a solution to and a way to improve the areas that were developed without subdivision regulations.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, have you identified these areas that this will apply to?
We have an idea because the public continuously comes in. So we we are very data heavy. We like to keep a log of the things and the issues that we have. We do this with mobile home placements. We do it with these requests and subdivisions. So we have an idea of where we continuously see issues, and I think that's where we'll start. But should there be other issues or other areas that are identified, our door is open.
Okay, because when we had that drainage project phase 3 in my district, okay, at one time, you know, they told us that was a rural area. Well, I totally disagree, because we was the beginning of St. John Parish before the plans developed, you know, because this was mustard field and Canfield, so this was rural. But the reason why I said that is when I had concern about that drainage project, and I was telling them about the placement of drain, they told me they was going by the subdivision. Okay, and they pulled up a map of that particular area, and it was designed as a subdivision. I forgot the name of it, but it is a subdivision. Okay, so you may have to look in some of these areas, some of these locations have already been designated as subdivisions.
Right.
Okay, with lot sizes and everything.
And the idea behind the rural statement is that rural areas typically don't have the same types of subdivision design as suburban areas. And right now what we have is a suburban subdivision code, right? And so there are areas that may warrant rural type subdivision standards with different types of road surfaces and those types of things, especially within historic districts. This is part of what prompted this discussion was, you know, the public wanted to see how these standards would be maintained. To your question, yeah, we'll definitely take into account those existing subdivision standards in place.
Yeah, we have subdivision in District 3. Okay, thank you. So now we have to vote on this. Okay, any more questions? Okay, use your lights, please.
That carries 8 in favor with 1 absent.
Carry 8 in favor with 1 absent. Okay, this is the last one. Where am I? Oh, right here. Okay, next on the agenda is also Ms. Natalie Robano, Resolution 1803, a resolution authorizing parish administration to apply for designation as a certified local government through the Louisiana Division of Historic Preservation and National Park Services.
Actually, I'd like to thank Alex and all of the committees that she's worked on. We keep bringing several things before you related to historic districts and our ability to create a commission and apply for grants. This is just one more step. The parish's efforts over the last year, such as the establishment of the 4 historic districts and a historic district commission, have resulted in a qualifying application for a CLG status. If approved by the state and the federal government, the parish will be eligible for additional Main Street and Economic Development grant funding. Administration recommends approval.
Okay, you heard from administration. Motion by Ms. Remedy. Second by Mr. Perilou. Okay, any questions?
I have one.
Mr. Perilou?
Does this ties into Goodwin and Associates, where we did the finance? That survey, does that tie the same thing as SAM?
It's not the same thing, but it's all components in the same thing. They're going to be surveying all the historic districts. This portion will allow us to be categorized in a manner that will allow us to apply for grant funding that might facilitate some of the improvements to those historic sites.
So the survey that they will do will help with this?
Yes.
In other words?
Mm-hmm. It'll identify the properties that would be historic, and again, as property owners, there are grants that are available to help restore properties, and if we have this status, that puts us in a better position to be able to access those grants.
Okay, all right.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Snyder.
Yes. The historic district, that was the Garrettville Reserve Historic District. Am I right there?
That's
and there's also another historic district in the parish that covers the whole parish.
There's 4 of them.
I've got 4 historic districts.
Right.
Why isn't there just one commission over all of them?
Right.
Because I'm wondering what might happen in the future sometime when we start applying for these funds and things of whatever nature.
The commission itself does not have anything to do with approval of grants or program management. The only thing they're really doing is deciding on whether or not like improvements to buildings on those little small main streets.
But it's just one commission.
Right, it's one
We
commission.
only have one commission, but 4 historic districts.
And the thing about having one commission is that you really want to have one because it's consistent, right? So the expectations for people applying on like West Bank and in Garyville and Reserve, the commission will consistently apply parish-wide like those district regulations.
Okay. One commission. I went to a commission meeting in Hamlin not too long ago, and I understand what their job.
They're doing a good job. Yeah.
Right, yeah, they do a good job. And what I'm concerned about, we got different districts, and I think we just organized our this latest district, but they've been having Garyville Historic District, I think, and then they got a Reserve in Garyville Historic District. How are they coming under our umbrella here as far as the commission is concerned? I mean, as far as our government of that historic district.
Right. So the districts themselves are just sets of boundaries, right? So you could or couldn't live in a historic district. We have 4 in the parish, right? So we have 1 in Garyville, 1 in Reserve, 1 in LaPlace, and 1 in the West Bank.
Right.
So if you live in the district and you want to demolish your house, you've got to go to the Historic District Commission and make sure that you get a certificate of appropriateness. And they say basically, have you considered remodeling it, selling it? Do you know you have tax abatement? Or you can get, tax incentives from the state. They refer you to the state office to sort of encourage you to not demolish it outright, either move it or find some other alternative so you don't lose that structure, right? Which is the historic preservation aspect of this. You really, to coordinate, and that commission, those members have to be trained, right? So there's a lot of, if we had a commission for each district, I think the state sets it up where you only need one. I think New Orleans they have their HDLC and Gretna has a different one, but Gretna's unincorporated. So like because the parish, we don't have towns, like all of everything falls under the parish government. We only need one commission. So like if Edgard ever wanted to become unincorporated and run itself, they would need their own commission. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes plenty of sense. It really
Yeah?
does. It really does make plenty of sense. And that presents me with another issue. Is there a historic district on the West Bank that's organized and like the historic district in Reserve in Garyville?
I think the West Bank was more organized because
Oh,
they already had their survey done, right? So like we kind of they have a lot of historic structures along River Road, and they have right. So they really have a lot of assets over there, and I think they know that. And I think formally, in terms of an ordinance and a law, none of these districts were established until 2017.
Okay.
So nobody was like ahead of anyone else, but I think we needed to formalize what we knew to be true, which was we have all these properties and houses that we need to find a way to preserve. And that just recently happened.
So each district would actually acquire and dispense their funds from the state or however to go get grants and things to
So
improve.
they're not grants, like just to be clear, like so the district and the commission, they're not like a redevelopment authority. They're just there to sort of push the pause button when it comes to demolitions and renovations and making sure buildings that should maybe be preserved are sort of considered for alternate solutions, and then new construction when it's built on the main streets is consistent with the look and feel of what we would want to see on our main streets to support those places as places to be, right? And remember, placemaking essentially. The CLG, which is the resolution that we're talking about right now, that is the funding. That is the Main Street funding. That's where you have economic development, working with the state, applying for grants, and it's the parish and economic development that's going to be dispersing those funds. The commission is just a reviewing body, much like the planning commission. It just sees applications and makes determinations.
So when the applicants come to you
Yes.
to do some work, then they automatically send a copy to the commission.
Right. So we
And
take
they
them
can-
in.
okay,
Right.
you take it
And
in.
we take them in. The surveys that are being done by the company, the contract that was awarded tonight, will help us to identify what properties need to go through the commission.
Okay.
Right.
All right.
Okay. Any further questions? Okay, use your lights. Oh,
Can I
Ms.
just
Ms.
ask-
Roboto.
This had been in the works, I know before I got here. But as Alex said, there were some documents, some preliminary work, but they never finalized any of it. It's been a long time. It takes a lot of work. As I said, Alex's team has done a great job. But we had to go through the official process of acceptance and creating our boundaries, and we're finally on our way in creating our commission. So although we all know we have some great historic structures, we know there were some documents put together identifying certain areas. It never made it to this point, and we're there now. We're there now. We're on our way, and each element that we bring to you adds to our ability to continue to move forward.
And
Okay.
this just to add, the CLG designation basically is the state's way of recognizing that we have committed resources to historic preservation, that we have districts, we have set up our commission, and we have a status basically that allows us to apply for grants for main streets that other communities that haven't demonstrated this commitment don't have, right? So it's a good step.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Carter. Any more further questions? Okay, use your lights, please.
That carries 8 in favor with 1
I
absent.
carry 8 in favor with 1 absent. Ms. Remedy made a request. Ms. Remedy, you make a motion in it?
I would like to make a motion to allow us to amend the ordinance to move up Mrs. Demetria Carter amend the agenda at this time so she could come up. There's several lengthy discussions we have, and I hate to make her way through all of that.
Okay. Second by Mr. Saraparu. Okay, use your lights, please.
That carries 8 in favor with 1 absent.
I carry 8 in favor with 1 absent. Okay, the item is Ms. Julia Remedy, Demetri Carter, utility garbage bill issues. Ms. Carter?
Okay, good evening, council.
Good evening.
I have 3 issues with the Public Utility Department. And let me start, I guess, how much time do I have to speak? I'm not sure what the protocol is. Okay,
Go ahead.
all right. It started back in, I guess, May 2016, when there was fluctuations with the utility bill with everybody. I went to my Garrett local office. I was told I had to go to LaPlace. I went to the LaPlace office. I was told I had to come to administration. Came to administration. I was told I had to fill out the form to say I was here and set up an appointment with Curtis Young. Did all of the above. Then I was told Curtis Young was at lunch. Then I ran into him outside. He did take time to speak to me. He said they would come back and look at my meter. I didn't hear back from him, but that was fine because 2 months later, my bill was credited, and I was fine with that. Okay, fast forward about 10 months, my bill at the guest house has always been a flat minimum, always. For 9.5 years we've been there, except for the spike that I previously spoke about in May about 2016. May 2017, same spike. No leaks, never had a leak, never had a repair in 9.5 years. Called about that. I was told that they would do a manual assessment or something of that nature. I may be paraphrasing what they said. As of January today, I have not received credit. The bill that they gave me for May 2017 was more water consumption than we had had in totality for 9.5 years with no leaks. Still not resolved. I emailed my council person, started out with emailing Councilman Saraparu and Ms. Remedy, Councilman Remedy, and still today, no results. No, not even a phone call back from the parish about it for the 2017.
Okay.
Okay, that was the first issue. Second issue, there was 3 garbage cans I've been being charged for. Called, went to the same protocol. Came to see Ms. Norma, I think about March 2017. I was told that I had to call. It started out with I called in Waste Management, who was the previous vendor. To no avail, never got it picked up. Then you guys set it up in March 2017 to come and see Ms. Norma. I came, I met with her, got the number from her, called Metro, left voicemails, no response. Finally, continuous calling, spoke with someone named Glenn. He assured me they were going to come pick up the extra trash cans. The trash can was my neighbor, and the home was foreclosed. So we just used it to keep the trash neat on like Christmas or Thanksgiving. I have 3 persons in my household. We don't consume enough for 3 garbage cans of trash every pickup. Sometimes we don't even have 1 pickup.
So nonetheless, call, like I said, Glenn assured me he was gonna come and take the 2 garbage cans and pick them up. Never happened. So I emailed my council person June 16th. She responded back June 17th of 2017. Then she said forwarded on to the utility manager about meeting and talking to me. And again, she told me that the administration suggested I contact Ms. Norma. I informed her that I'd been through that process already. To no avail, called Metro, to no avail, still being billed for 3 garbage cans. Later, I wrote her again June 22nd. She told me she was forwarding it on to Ms. Robottom's office. July 31st, a reply back. It's going to be taken care of. September 6th, I contacted her again to say the same exact thing that I just stated. Again, still being billed for 3 garbage cans, still has not been picked up. September 7th, she forwarded, and this time she CC'd Ms. Norma and Curtis Young. I was told that Ms. Remedy said she was sorry it hadn't been resolved. She thought it had been. Curtis wrote me an email back saying that he would call them himself personally and have it taken care of. September 7th, 2017, 9:37 a.m. I called back again, still no trash can pickup, still being billed for 3. October, emailed again. Again, Ms. Remedy forwarded it on, said it would be taken care of, be picked up. November, December, January, and we're here now. This January 23rd, still not picked up. I've still been charged for 3 garbage cans. Third problem, when I ran for councilman at large, I leased a small office on the West Bank. I had a short-term lease, I think it was for like a month or something like that. And I signed the work order to have the utilities turned on. It was turned on. I was unsuccessful in that effort. And so Entergy immediately called them. They was terminated. I have a work order number for St. John Parish. They did not terminate it until 2 to 3 months later and continued to charge me for those months after the lease had expired, in addition, after I had called to have the services terminated. And as of January 23rd, at this moment, still no response back from administration, no refund, nothing.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Carter. Administration, you want to answer those concerns?
I think Ms. Toombs has actually been dealing with this case.
Ms.
Toombs.
Okay.
And also, I think Blake can elaborate on this as well. Mr. Young informed him of some of the things that he has been doing regarding this particular matter. I have been in communications with the disposal company regarding the pickup of trash cans, and according to them, and I spoke with them today, that they have no record of Ms. Carter calling and asking for those trash cans to be picked up. We do know that Ms. Carter has possession of those 3 trash cans. Matter of fact, she has 2 at her larger home and 1, I guess, at her guest house. And so, again, as was communicated to me by Metro, is that Ms. Carter will have to call them and request for those trash cans to be picked up.
Okay, and I'm stating that I have called, and I also have email documentation from Curtis Young saying that he would call because I told him I was unsuccessful and them coming out to pick it up. So if they
And
don't
just to
have
confirm, I think
documentation.
Megan called as well.
Okay,
So
so
the only case that I was aware of, I know you expressed 3 was your garbage can issue, and I know Megan was working on it, I know Laverne was working on it, and it is problematic, the fact that all of us have been working on it and you still have 3 garbage cans.
And it's problematic that all of you guys were working on it, but no one communicated with me. And I have the email from Curtis from you guys' system that he said in September 2017 at 9:37 a.m. that he would call. So if they don't have record of my calling, why don't they have record of Curtis calling at that time?
With the conversation that I had with Metro on today, they asked that if you would, and we would be more than glad to join you on the call with Metro to make sure that those trash cans are picked up. But according to the individual that I spoke to today, that is the resident's responsibility to call the disposal company to have those trash cans picked up.
Okay,
So
and
we'd be more than glad to assist. We'd be more than glad to assist you with that.
Okay, I've called, I've emailed my council person, I've emailed Curtis. Curtis said he would take care of it too because he would call. So how many times do I call I want a credit on my bill for this, a refund. This is ridiculous. You guys are sending me around a circle. You tell me your protocols to come talk to Ms. Norma, I do that. You tell me to call Metro, I do that. And I got documentation, emails back and forth that I have done that, and then you guys, your administration said you did also call.
But
So,
Ms. Carter, I'm sorry to interrupt, but also Metro informed us that they have been servicing those trash cans.
they have not. They have
And
not.
they also have documentation to
They have
show
not.
that those trash cans have been serviced.
I have a 3-person household. There's no way I can consume enough trash to consume 3 garbage cans, large garbage cans. I have a job that I work out of Dallas, Texas, that I'm on constant travel. There's no way they have ever serviced 3 garbage cans, except maybe Thanksgiving and maybe Christmas.
Okay, but even though if those trash cans are serviced, we still have to pay for the service.
But how can I resolve it if I call Metro, like you tell me to do? Metro doesn't come and pick them up. Your administration acknowledged in the email that they were going to call since September last year. Metro doesn't pick them up, but you're still charging me for them, and I'm going to continue to be charged until Metro picks them up? I don't understand.
Okay, excuse me, Mr. Perler.
Yeah, I'm listening, because I don't know if we're gonna be able to solve that here, but,
Well, the only reason I came here, Mr. Peralou, is because
Ms.
I didn't
Carter.
get a response back.
Yeah.
Ms. Carter, I'm gonna give you a chance to
But Ms.
respond back.
Toombs,
Let me
is it
finish, then I'll get back to you.
to see the billing clerk for garbage cans? That's why I'm not understanding, I'm not following that, why Norma was involved in garbage cans.
I think initially she had a water leak.
Right.
So-
I never had a water leak. Never,
well,
ever.
you had a billing issue, I'm sorry.
Yes.
And
But
which was what Norma was here dealing with, and it's my understanding, that there was a credit, but there's still,
And that was a credit a year
And
ago.
Blake,
but I had the
I
same
saw
problem
Mr.
in
Fogman
17,
getting up, I
hasn't
guess
been
he's gonna
credit.
have a reply on the billing issue, because I was looking around for Curtis, I didn't see him, to see what is that going about, because, has a meeting been set up, Julia, with, Ms. Carter and yourself?
I
and
thought
maybe,
Miss Carter
Curtis?
visited with Curtis one day. You
That was
didn't?
that was 2016 before I even got you
Okay,
involved for 17.
no, I think I happened to be in his office one day when he just spoke with you.
Miss Carter.
Mr. Curtis has not spoken with me about this.
Just double checking.
Miss Carter, as I said, the only problem I was aware of.
Oh, Mr. Sarapru was.
Let me
Wait a minute.
Well, I had the floor.
No. The floor went from you to Miss Remedy. Okay, now, Mr. Sarapru, I'll come back to you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mrs. Carter, I did have a conversation with you a couple of times, and I wanted to make sure that you were talking with Councilman Bramade about this. But what is the total amount that you overpaid, that you're being billed for right now?
I'm being billed, and let me get out the exact bills.
And
$58.98 per garbage each month. $58.98.
for garbage, and normally garbage is what,
$19.95.
$19.95? Okay, so, I mean, it's just a simple matter of reimbursing for the payment you made for the past several months and just bill it for one garbage can. So I don't understand what's the big headache behind getting that straight with the billing department.
I would suggest that we're not gonna resolve this tonight, and I apologize up front. I've been knowing about your garbage can issue since June, and follow up repeatedly on what is the status, which is much shorter than the time period you've been dealing with. The other two issues I'm not that familiar with. I'm out of town through the end of the week, but we will get with you when I return, because this needs to be resolved. It's way too long. I know where you live. I know who lives in your household. There is no need for 3 garbage cans. I know they're still there. I don't understand myself. We've been knowing about your extra garbage cans for months, why they're not picked up.
I appreciate it, and I'm gonna be out in Dallas tomorrow, so I won't be here, but I will be back at the end of the week also.
Okay, Mr. Carter, Mr. Carter, you have something to say? Okay, I'd like to say something. The part that I don't understand, and it never should happen, okay, you have documentation and records showing that you contacted Metro and requested those cans to be removed, okay, and I also had an incident with Metro, with the Parish building, senior citizen building, where request was made after request, and finally, until I got involved with it, that they finally came and did what they had to do. So it's extremely possible that Metro, okay, not speaking to them, have a miscommunication. Because myself, I spoke to several people at Metro and got several different answers, and still no results for about a 2 weeks period, until finally, being persistent, I got something done. So I definitely understand where you're coming from, and for Metro to say they have no record when you have emails and phone calls. You know.
How would I know who the personnel is if I?
How would you know a name? You didn't speak to an individual, okay? And I also agree with Mr. Sarapu. I think this can be solved easily as far as the reimbursement. Mr. Becknell, then Mr. Snyder.
Yes, I commend you on your documentation because I believe in that. But to me, with Metro, we have an assigned rep, and I know he is George Carter. And if you call him, he's very efficient, and I know he follows up. I don't see how that's so difficult to remove two garbage cans. If you would start with the rep, I'm not, that's my suggestion.
Well, I did what I was told. When Norma gave me the number, I called, and Glenn answered the phone finally. Like I said, I left numerous voicemails, and nobody responded. And then finally someone answered named Glenn on a call.
Well, this is my suggestion. I have a 100% success rate with Metro, and I know it all starts with George Carter, and I'm telling you, 100%. We need to find out, is he the rep for this particular situation? Call him. And I'm serious. He's very good with me.
Well, look.
I'm just suggesting.
I know, and as a very good suggestion.
Because it works for me.
Because you're extremely right. Mr. Carter really does take care of everything. Whenever I have a problem with Metro, I go straight to him. But Ms. Carter is not aware of that individual. Exactly. So that's why she went through the step that she was told to go through. Because if she was aware of Mr. Carter, she would have called him with no problem. Or Ms. Remedy would have known what to call him or something like that, because he's 100%. Okay, 100%. I'm not having to pick up garbage can for individuals, with the same similar situation that you have. So it's just a matter of you not knowing the right individual to communicate with.
Well, I called who I was told.
Right, you did exactly what you was told to do. You followed the procedure.
And I have a question for the council. I saw a flyer that goes out about garbage and telling you what days they pick up and what they pick up. And on it says complaints to call Metro. Well, if you have a problem with Metro, who do you complain to? I don't understand. I'm paying for the services to the parish, but you're telling me if I have a complaint, call Metro. If I got a problem with Metro, who do I contact?
Your district.
Which is what I did, and now I'm going in the same vicious circle that I've been in for 2 years.
Right. Okay. But that's who you contact. Mr. Snyder, then I'll come to Mr.
Ms. Carter, I'll sympathize with you because it's like having the wolf watch the chicken house. And I've said that a long time ago. Those are the people that we complain to them. They keep the record and send the record to us, to the parish. Metro's not going to do that. I don't care what the contract say. First of all, we got 3 issues here. The parish that she's going to take care of one. Will you look at all 3 issues?
All 3. I actually said I was only aware of one, but the others are new to me, but we can pull that information, the specifics of how long this has been going on. I'm aware of the garbage can issue, which I sit here and admit that is too long. Whether you called, my office called, Curtis called, Laverne's been on calls, this is ridiculous. For the amount of time that it's taking, not to bring you new garbage cans, but to pick up the garbage cans. So we will get with you, and I did ask you to send me the specifics of, I think, your disconnect request for your lease and the latest concern with your water bill.
Okay, Ms. Toon?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. In regards to contacting Mr. Carter, I did speak with him on today. He was the one that communicated to me about the process of having trash cans picked up, and he assured me that if Ms. Carter calls, that the matter will be taken care of. In regards to the other two matters, those matters were just brought to our attention, I believe, on last week. We were not aware of those two items, and I do know that Mr. Young has looked at Ms. Carter's meter, and I believe that the meter is fairly new, and he has collected data regarding that, and he'll be more than glad to sit down with Ms. Carter to go over the data that he collected from her meter.
Okay, Mr.
I'm
Mr.
sorry,
Wright.
Mr. Madera, could I speak again?
Yes.
That is not an accurate statement that they are just being notified about the other two instances. I have emails to Ms. Julia Remedy, and she can attest to it, that has gone back to administration since June about all three issues.
I'm just saying that I wasn't aware, and it's the parish president stated she wasn't aware either, so it was just brought to our attention. When it was brought to our attention, I met with Mr. Young and asked him to look into the matter, which he did. He physically went to Ms. Carter's house and collected the data on that particular meter, and as I stated earlier, he would be more than glad to sit down with her and explain the data that was collected regarding that particular meter.
Okay.
Can I have one more comment?
Go ahead.
Okay, I was on the agenda to be here tonight, so I don't understand why Mr. Young is not here tonight with that data.
Okay.
Well, one, we probably shouldn't be discussing your individual
hold on.
problem.
Okay, Mr. Wright.
Thank you. Ms. Carter, thank you for coming to the meeting to relay your concerns. This council has exhausted themselves, and I can assure you, you're not the first person and won't be the last with this issue, and this council has exhausted themselves demanding better, demanding improvement. It's been on the agenda multiple, so we've discussed this for well over a year, and the fact that it's now getting to the issue of a garbage can is not just unacceptable, but it's embarrassing.
Exactly.
So I want to apologize on behalf of St. John Parish. And I want to stress again to administration, I don't want to keep stressing this, that we have to do better. We will do better. Because the fact that you have to come to the council to get a garbage can removed, and then you're told to still call again the next day, that's unacceptable and embarrassing. So I want to apologize on behalf of St. John Parish.
All right. Any more comments concerning Ms. Carter issue? We do have someone else concerned about utilities. Just a comment I'd like to make too. Like Mr. Wright said, okay, you're not the first one, okay? And I think I told Mr. Snyder today on the phone when we talked, I'm getting tired of this utility and water bill issue. And I told him, I'm to the point now, I don't understand what's going on. Who's on first base, who's on second, I don't know, on third base, I don't know. You know, it's been going on for so long. You know, and everyone that I speak to have legit concern and documentation proving the problem. Okay, the bill is just level 1 month, and it's just level 1 month. Then they change the meter, get a new meter, and then it goes back to where it's supposed to be, and then a month later, it's all over the place again. Okay, and so I understand what you're going through, you know, and it's very confusing to the resident and definitely frustrating to this council, you know, because we want to help the people we represent and get this stuff straight, because up and down inconsistency is not the way to go, okay? So.
Well, I thank you guys and appreciate you allowing me to be on the agenda to express my issues and my concerns.
Okay, we have another individual. Yeah, it's an item. It's utility. It have to be reference to.
Ms. Carter.
It could be utility. Anyone can speak on utility. It have to be just.
It has to be in reference to Ms. Carter's item.
It have to be Ms. Carter
So I
item.
can't speak?
No,
Oh,
it's utility, but I can place you on the agenda. Whatever. Well, I mean, it's a similar agenda item. It's a bill. No. Okay. Okay. Well, okay, yeah, take it. Yeah. All righty. Okay, so we can go back to the top of the agenda. Okay, the first one is Mr. Sarapu, I think. Yeah, Mr. Larry Sarapu, it's a table item, financial report and finding of a New Year festival. Do you want to remove that from the table? Okay, you have to make a motion.
I make a motion you would remove the item from the table.
Okay,
on
need a
the
second?
list.
Second by Mr. Begnell. Okay, use your lights, please.
That carries 7 in favor with 2 absent.
7 in favor with 2 absent, yeah.
Good evening, council. The actual expenses for the 2017 On-Duty Festival was $321,328. Revenues of $206,065. The approved festival budget of $300,000 was exceeded by $115,263, requiring a budget amendment. Overtime expenditures were $50,401, which reflects a 40% decrease from 2016. Analysis of these expenditures suggests the festival has outgrown its original intent and feasibility. Administration strongly recommends pursuing nonprofit participation in funding and operations of the festival if it is to continue to grow. The budget that you guys have in front of you expresses the updated revenues and the updated expenditures and the profit and loss. I placed it in front of you.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Okay, this is Mr. Srapper. Mr. Srapper, you got anything you want to add after this? Questions?
No, I just want to make sure we get the numbers in on that, Jerry. I thank you for bringing this information to us. Timmy?
Anyone else? Okay, great. I got to speak.
Thank you, Jerry. I just want to make a comment. I mean, this shows a lot of progress. When I look at the On-Duty Festival, I've said it multiple times. It's an economic development event, and I look at this as a budget line item, just like every event, every service that is provided within your department and every department. With the breakdown, obviously you can tell there's room for improvement, but from an overall perspective, as a community event, as a parish event, as a whole, just want to commend your department.
Thank you. Just want you guys to see that we are seeing an increase in sponsorships, but I do want to point out the fact that, and you guys know this, I'm preaching to the choir. If this was operated by a nonprofit, they would be able to raise way more money than what we're able to raise because of our governmental status. And so I don't know if we need to consider capacity building for community organizations in order to get them to a point where they can facilitate it. It's not that we're just trying to throw it out of our department. That's not the goal. We want this to be successful and has the potential of being successful. But it's just the fact that you could raise more money as a nonprofit than you could as a governmental entity. And that's the purpose as to why the administration made the remark towards the end.
Got it. Anyone else? Mr. Mardell, you got something you want to say?
No. Well, y'all say one thing. Yeah.
Mr. Mardell?
Okay, you said non-governmental agency could make more money.
Like a 501c3, they could send out the same sponsorship letters that we send out to business entities. When those businesses cut checks to us, they are not able to report them as well as they could for a 501c3 on their taxes. And so a company would be more willing to give and give more if they knew they'd be able to see a slight deduction or a tax deduction on their tax.
And if it was to go to an outside source, would the parish still benefit from the festival?
Absolutely.
You would benefit without the possibility of losing money. In other words, you wouldn't lose any money.
I don't think the festival would, if it was operated correctly and there was some real legitimate capacity building for a nonprofit organization to oversee it, I just don't see how it could fail, especially with you're selling on-duty. I mean, this parish food culture is extremely high and rich in tradition, and so if we were to go towards a nonprofit organization overseeing this, and not just one, I think it's got to be a collective organization. There's been some discussion about possibly seeing if we could grow the capacity of the cultural districts, the commission, to maybe one day look at this, and not overnight. This is something that we're going to have to just look at and try to see how we could build capacity. But if we were able to transfer this to a 501c3 and allow them to have control of it, they would be able to fundraise way more money than what we're able to raise.
Right, I think what I'm getting at is, we wouldn't lose the festival. You still have the festival, and we'll make a profit.
Correct.
Okay, so to me, that's a win.
Well, somebody make the profit.
Well, we'll get some
we
of
would
it.
see the
We'll get some benefit.
Visual,
Right, we'll get some benefit from it.
Yeah, we'd see the return on investments in our restaurants,
Right,
and our hotels.
you get some benefit out of it without the possibility of losing anything.
Correct.
Okay, so to me, that's a win situation like that.
Anyone else?
I just wanted to add that we have increased significantly with regard to the sponsorships, but it also has required a huge effort to get to that point. But we're still, there's probably some other little things we could do as well that might increase our revenues. And we have talked about possibly nonprofits. In some other instances, the parish actually helped support them until they could get up on their feet, which is something that, obviously we don't want to lose the festival. We don't want it to end. So there would need to be some supports to get started, but ultimately the goal is to reduce the losses, increase the revenues or the profit from the festival. And again, when you look at the details, it takes a lot of staff, which, they're paid overtime to work the festival. So all of that adds to the actual cost of the festival. But I think, we've come a long way. It's costing a lot more than we ever thought it would, but we have decreased the loss and increased the revenue.
Yes, ma'am, Mr. Wright.
Thank you, and Jerry, I'm glad you actually mentioned that. Have we attempted to try to pull any data from that weekend as far as indirect revenues to the parish?
Not at this time.
Paying overtime, although I know it doesn't encompass everything, because sometimes they were here during the workday. They may have done that on overtime, but they were also people here during the basic 8-hour day, and they were being monitored. So I think we came up with some good ideas. Nobody was resistant. We had lots of conversation about it. We didn't put it on paper. There are a couple of questions we need to find out, like, is it possible to give them, I don't know what you call it, like when you get additional time, like more than an hour for an hour's work, for certain types of events, which might encourage them to participate in those because they get their time down quicker, versus just getting an hour for an hour for something that maybe require less of an effort. But we can put that in writing, but it was just actual discussion during the event.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any further questions? Okay. Next on the agenda is also Mr. Larry Snyder, update on West Bank wastewater tank project.
Thank you, Chairman. The design engineers completed the preliminary design, and progress meeting is being scheduled. I think we've had 2 missteps on just connecting for our scheduling earlier this month and through the holidays. In one instance, he was unable to meet. In another instance, I think we had one of the freeze events here. So we're rescheduling a lot of those meetings right now, trying to get them in to continue that project.
What is preliminary design?
They came and did data gathering, and they put their first round on paper as far as what they foresee is what they're going to have to design and what they're going to have to reconstruct or rehab, and what they want to include. We sit down and go over that with them, and if it's a clear picture of within the scope of a cost and everything fits where we can go, we move forward into refining those details into a final design.
Okay, good.
So they, as I understand it, and I did request that to maybe for them to email it prior to the meeting so that we can start reviewing it. But the preliminary is on paper, something for us to really talk about, some of the drafting done, and further discussion and anything that was omitted or forgotten or missed or we did, maybe we have issues now we didn't have when they started the design. So it's just that first step.
So the next meeting will be, y'all scheduled it yet?
I'm waiting on a reply, and hopefully the next couple weeks.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I mean, we're wanting to get this thing moving, so I know it's been about 3 weeks that we've been back and forth with each other, so we're trying to get them in and let them continue on to the next step.
All right, thank you, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay, next on the agenda is Mr. Larry Snyder, presentation of a document process for water tap service during possible shortage.
Tap water.
Tap water. I'm not saying tap water.
Yes, sir, Councilman. Thank you. And I do have something here, and I'm sure you have a little more, maybe to elaborate. We can discuss a little bit more. But so during the event, and especially in this last one, the Director of Utilities as well as Fire Chief monitor pressures and tower levels during that event that challenge the reserve capacity for water distribution. Once the towers reach a level of 15 feet or pressure changes by 10 to 15 pounds within our system, a conserve warning is issued through the communications department. The primary means of communication is through the emergency alerts, phone, text, email, government access channel, cable overrides when necessary, and social media. The public safety director also contacts industrial users, medical facilities, facilities for seniors, and the economic development department staff contacts businesses and high volume commercial users such as laundromats and car washes. My emergency operations plan, ESF 12, as of the function in the EOC, is currently being updated and redefined to set some standards on that. So we're currently putting that, formalizing that on paper.
We're currently formalizing, and we have a document with that
The
process.
intention is to have a document in mind as well as the main EOC procedure and anyone that's involved. So, communications department, fire safety, all those people that are pertinent to issuing this conserve would be on that SOP.
Okay. Thank you. I really think that's necessary.
Yes, sir. I mean, every event
really
presents something new, and I think for years and years, the people that have been with this parish for a long time, it was always just utilities did what utilities did, and the EOC had to fall in line. And I think everyone I mentioned here and the staff and the EOC works together, and we've done that through these events. Whether it be public works or utilities based events, and we're always, those documents are fluid documents. We work those as an event comes by and we learn lessons. We try to implement that so we don't have to remember it next time. It's about having it on paper and acting on it. Yeah.
Well, it sounds like we have the right people in place to get us a good document that we can put on our new computer system, and we all can see it, and we'll know what's going on with everybody in the department. Now, when we had this freeze thing this past week, we had a shortage of water.
Yes, sir.
Do we also have that we're going to incorporate in that document a freeze protection type of procedure?
Yeah,
also?
and I think we discussed that on the phone during the event. The parish president of the EOC and some of the staff also, as these calls were coming in, we saw a lot of concerns with the types of apparatuses that are out in the public and the issues they were causing. And you and I spoke directly about backflow prevention as being one of those things. You obviously, you said you had some concerns with that program leading up to that, and the requirement for the community to protect those. That's going to continue to be investigated, and what we're trying to do now. I spoke with Travis with the EOC. In the future, we're hoping that we can get some communities that have the same issues and kind of roundtable this thing and say, hey, what are you guys doing? What are we doing? Let's figure out how we're catching this, because there's some communities out there that didn't report issues of backflow preventers, and I as an operator want to know why. Because what we saw was fountains everywhere, and I want to know why did some communities not have that issue, and so I think that's going to be an ongoing discussion. I don't think these freezers are going away. I think we're going to have to battle through them and be better prepared each time one comes, and I think that's what we're going to intend on doing.
And that's good. All that's good direction there.
Yes, sir.
And I think if we can get that done, then we're going to be much better prepared for when we have a next freeze, and there will be another one.
Yes,
I don't know whether it's going to be this year or next year, but there will be another one.
Right. And
we can be better prepared, because we have some real issues this time.
Yes, sir. I mean, and that's two in 3 weeks. That's 2 of those in 3 weeks. So, I mean, this last one was very hard, but yeah, I appreciate the support and understanding. Administration, the EOC staff, our department, we did work around the clock to make sure we could get it back to normal as quickly as we can. So we appreciate the understanding.
I think y'all did a great job. And all the leaks I know they had around. I know they had a lot of leaks.
We had 330 calls. I won't say it's all leaks, and we're still working the numbers, but 330 calls in 3 days is a lot. We brought in additional staff from different departments to oversee just putting eyes on every. We put eyes on every leak that was called in, or every concern that was called in. So somebody might call and say we have no water. We pulled up to the house and saw water shooting out the side of the house, and they didn't step foot out their house, and they don't know why they don't have water. So we addressed those issues as we saw them, and because every drop of water meant water to everyone else in the community. So we tried addressing each one of those.
So what you're doing right now, you're looking at demand leaks, and we can get back to those little leaks that we see on the side of the streets later on.
Yeah, well, I mean, currently our staff's trying to get
I'm talking small
reorganized.
leaks,
No, and our staff's trying to get back on the ones that are on the work order. I know there's a drive-through that's owed to Councilman Madair, and I know that there's some on Cambridge that we discussed. We're trying to get reorganized, get all our staff, get our equipment back to where it should be, and our staff back to where it should be. We do have contractors working on leaks that sprung up throughout the event. Some major leaks that sprung up. They're going to be here throughout the week working on those individually as our staff gets back to every day and catches up with our online stuff.
All right.
Okay,
Thank you very much.
Mr. Brown, I had Mr. Wright before you, Mr. Wright.
Thank you. Just real quick, Blake, I just want to commend you and your staff. Obviously, last week wasn't the perfect scenario, nowhere near it. But the way you guys handled it, really, the residents I know were frustrated, but at the end of the day, they did appreciate it. And administration as well. You know, things could have been a lot worse.
It's a group effort. I will say that in any event we go through, it's not just our staff. It's everyone in this room that's on staff and who manned that EOC and was in the field. So we appreciate it.
Ms. Robalo?
Yes, I wanted to go back to the backflow preventers. During the event, that was a major problem. Some of our facilities, we actually met with the superintendent and his staff. They thought they had, weatherized appropriately because they'd had a major leak in the first event. And we saw not just theirs, but many throughout the community. So I made some calls to my colleagues, and there were some municipalities that had the same problems with backflow preventers. But as Blake said, there were others that didn't. There are options to consider by the council, which is to require that they put boxes. Again, I don't know what the costs are. We can investigate that. That's not part of our ordinance right now. But I think a lot of them are considering it because the cost to repair them repetitively is not worth it. They just soon invest the money in the box to protect it. So we definitely want to take a look at what those costs might be. We did find lots of things out in the fields. As Blake said, it was a group effort. And, our public works staff actually supported. We had inspectors out there, the staff within the building. But these guys were in sugarcane fields looking for leaks, in ditches, at houses, at commercial sites during the freezing temperatures, in addition to trying to protect, the bridges and roadways. So I do want to commend all of them on their efforts. Again, it was a statewide event. Obviously, it wasn't specific to St. John, but I can tell you the people who were out working with us were out in the fields trying to save every drop of water that we could. That did entail cutting off water to certain homes or certain businesses. Because they had massive leaks that were affecting our ability to keep up with the capacity. But as usual, we do an after-action meeting to go over what worked, what didn't. But I do know we had public works staff facilitating this project. They were doing the things that may not have required specialty work, whereas the utility staff was doing the things that, the repairs and things they could do, whereas the others, and including our billing department, was going out, shutting off water or checking to see if pipes were frozen or to, identifying leaks throughout the community. And we had, people answering the phone. People called us back. They would call in the morning and say, I have no water, but my neighbors have water. And, we talked about, well, did you weatherize? Some of them said no. Do you think your pipes are frozen? And usually by afternoon when the sun would come out, they'd call back and say, oh, now I have water. It must have been my pipes. So I think it's a learning experience. We're also looking at better ways to have people weatherize. It's educational. There were some people who didn't run anything. There's others that ran tubs, faucets in every room, which is not necessary. But we do understand people are trying to prevent their pipes from breaking. We just want them to do it in a way that doesn't deplete our system, which affects everybody.
Wait. Well, yes, Mr. Bignell.
Okay, listen, I'm kind of glad you said this because I wanted to just clear up some things. On the West Bank, we're very outspoken, and basically, I'm going to just tell you what I went through, and I think what you said is going to help me a little bit. I'm just going to suggest this, a little better communication effort. As far as when I received the call that Councilman Bignell, we're going to turn the water off on the West Bank. We understood that. But I think what we should have done, and maybe, correct me if I'm wrong, if you knew, and barely the robocalls went out, that was great. But if you knew you was going to cut it off at 5 and I got a call at 4 o'clock, I mean, imagine everybody trying to run their tubs in the middle of filling containers, and this is what happened.
But we didn't want them to.
I know, but listen, but when they heard you was going to cut it off, what they was trying to do, not run the water, just fill up some containers.
Prepare themselves, yes,
But
sir.
then we got abruptly cut off.
And I understand that. And
that was a nightmare from hell for me when that happened.
Yes,
indeed. I received 18 phone calls.
I won't speak for Bailey, but I
know.
certainly appreciate that situation. I will say this, that in a matter of maybe 3 hours, with the ongoing water flow through people's pipes, because that was when the day we had maybe only 4 hours above freezing. So with the ongoing water flow in people's homes, as well as the slight thaw that we received, within 2 to 3 hours, the whole scene changed on what we thought we could prepare ourselves for and maintain throughout the parish, and not just on the West Bank. The thought that we were just going to completely cut off, I don't know that our plant, and because I have a gentleman that lives on the West Bank, refused to want to turn off any water because he said he can make it work, and that's the dedication that he wanted to show, that I could provide at least a little water. I don't know that it was ever we backed off of it because we had to try to get water back at some point.
Tried to explain
I don't think we ever officially turned off a valve and said y'all are out of water. I know it dropped, but that was in part because the system was declining at that rate of how much was hitting the ground. Just to kind of put some numbers out there, one of the days on the East Bank, and I'm still running numbers to analyze the whole, one of the days on the East Bank, we actually treated more wastewater, almost 1.5 million to 2 million gallons of wastewater than we produced with water. That's without rain. So the fact that I treated more wastewater than I produced water meant that water came from somewhere, and it came from my reserves of water. That's from every water tower. That's for that number to be inverse like that. That's only a rain event that does that happen. And for that to happen that tells me that there was faucets running. And I understand what homeowners are doing. Again, it's an education thing. We want them to do it effectively. And if we can minimize that number. So you go a day later, we have 1.5 million gallons not going into my wastewater system, which tells me it's hitting the ground. Right? And I wouldn't say it's all the 1.5, but even if it's 1 million gallons, that's 1 million gallons of water that was going out of leaks, hitting the ground unchecked. So that's where the 300 calls comes in, where we start turning water off.
I was telling them that.
So it's just some preliminary numbers that I'm going through and analyzing what happened last week to try to figure out if there's a better way to maneuver through that series of events. I will say it was much different than the first one. First one was 3 nights, not as hard. We raised above freezing every day, so there was a lot of thaws and a lot of things. We had significantly less calls the first week of the year than we did this year.
Right.
I mean, we had maybe 100. This shorter event, in some perspectives, had 330 calls. I think is what we totalized, and we're still addressing issues to our office today from last week's event.
Yeah, and I was telling the West Bank, and Verdell kept in touch with me, just telling me what happened.
And I know, and that's to say,
but when you try to explain to them,
the number, and I will say this, the number of calls, we have it broken down by city, we have it broken down by water district, we have it broken, I mean, there's a lot of data that we're going to have to kind of crunch and see where it all comes from. The calls didn't come from the West Bank. I can tell you that right now. The majority of the calls were reserve and low cost. And that's broken water, that's leaks, that's no water.
Right. Trying to explain
through everything. The West Bank was and I would say very understandable and worked with us.
Well, that's why I'm glad y'all say what y'all had to say, because I wanted the West Bank to know that we weren't singled out that they turned our water off.
No, sir. We had to back off.
Like to turn
the ability for us to make water.
I don't get into that.
To get back when we did. We had to make decisions to do that, or it would have prolonged this out into this week, and we were trying to cut that time frame.
But again, just one thing, when they say it, like if you're going to turn the water off, I guess they had on the water just to fill their tubs up and stuff.
And quite honestly, they didn't have councilmen that they could have turned on a lot of things. I don't know that we would have had water to give.
Okay,
that's what made it go quicker. We probably had enough to go like several hours, but because they all filled everything, it went out.
But that's duly noted, and in the next iteration, we're gonna try to be in a better position to maybe inform and say that
continuous
12 hours and maybe people take care of business.
That's what it comes down to, continuous.
All right, Mr. Snyder.
Yes. You know, I remember years back, we just used to turn the water off, drain the pipes, and fill the bathtub up.
That's right.
You know, and after that, I don't know, remember being, you know, when the pipe been, that's what you did. You turn your water off, you fill the pipe. Tell me something, is that, if we hadn't had all the pipes broken, and we know they was gonna freeze, they can freeze tomorrow starting at noon, and I decided to just go maybe fill me a few containers, put a little water in the bathtub, you know, to wash my face with and things like that. So is that more, it's best to do that way, or just try to fight through it and let the water run for a little while? Don't let the water run at all. Just shut it off and let drain the pipes.
I think there's a lot of different methods out there. I stayed up when I wasn't looking at plant numbers and assessing things. I was looking at you know, press releases, and I'm sure Beto was doing the same thing from other districts and other communities that were putting out information to try to find that best solution to educate and inform. I think if I stood here and told you to do one thing or the other, there's recommendations I can always tell you to do. But if I told you to do this and something happened on your property, you coming back to me and saying,
yeah, well, I understand
you know,
that.
But I think industry takes it one way. Residents take it a whole different way. So there's a broad spectrum of best practices on what to do. I think we're going to continue efforts to make something more specific on if you are going to run your water, this is how you should run it, so that you minimize the usage and you maximize the effectiveness on the freeze. If you aren't going to run your water, de-inventory your piping, so you know, run your water out so that the piping, when it does expand, it won't break anything. I think there's methods to that, but I don't know that there's one catch-all that says you're going to be fine if you do it this way.
Yeah, well, that's what we used to do. You know, and I got some complaints. Why these car washes got water? Nobody else have water. But I heard it on Facebook.
I got an answer for you.
And I know the answer. They use recycled water. I found that out years ago. They use recycled water.
Yes,
They got big tanks that they use recycled
water.
And
it's all underground.
And it's underground, right. And I put that on Facebook, that they actually use recycled water, and as they replenish it during normal time.
Yeah.
But during a time like this, when it gets too low, they just shut it down.
And we did multiple checks on that. And I said it in the EOC as well. I will say this: the same, you know, we're worried about the car washes, and we communicate with them through the economic development. But the same car wash that is open, those residents that live in this parish also got the conserved notice. So those residents that are going to that car wash know that they shouldn't be using the water as well. So it's a dual. So if you go to if you tell them to shut down and they say, well, I can stay open all I want, no one should be here because the residents should be heeding to that. I mean, that's the same with washateers and things. So we're working on that, and we're working with economic development to at least have the communication with those business owners so that they understand the situation. I don't know that I can turn your water off to you and say you can't use it, but what I can do is open that education and that information so that we're on the same page and we're all in this together. Because the quicker we can get back, the quicker those residents are gonna be out on the streets using that car wash
and I like to commend Bailey for all the communication she did. You know, every 5 minutes she was sending something out. 2 o'clock in the morning.
It was I will say this: they kept up extremely well in the EOC with us. We were throwing a lot of information at them very quickly when it came through. It changed very fast. We held for a long time, and I agree that I think they did a wonderful job.
They have trouble every parish from here to Baton Rouge.
858,000 people were under a ball water advisory for low pressure in our area. So
I think we got water back good time. I think our water lasts a long time. I know on this side. In the plaza, I don't think we ever lost water.
Not totally.
No,
but
it was got pressure down a little bit, and that's, you know.
And I will say this, you know, there are cases where, like the last freeze we held a little bit higher pressure. We were able to sustain. I don't know if we had as many breaks. I don't know because of the extended. So everyone's different, and so this formalization is going to be a guideline of what we do on a conserve. But obviously each conserve is going to be different, and we're going to have to take this as a base and really and work with what we can. You know, the hydrant hit on Woodland is that's a conserve. That's a whole different emergency that happens whenever we lose water because of an accident or something like that.
That was a man hit on that too.
Yeah.
So I mean, so there's, we're continuing to work, Councilman.
Okay, Mr. Sarafu. Yes, Blake, I just wanted to ask you, we had a conversation briefly about Rhode Island well water coming into the lines, water lines. Did you ever manage to get that crossover?
Say that again, Councilman, I'm sorry.
The water from the wells from Rhode Island.
So we always have a connection. We've always had an emergency connection. I think after 2014, when they dissected both the East Bank water districts. So Water District 1 is Reserve Alliance Plant. Water District 3 is LaPlace. Those lines are always there for emergency use. At any time we can turn that on. It's an operational decision based on the current status of where we stand and the capacity we have to support. We're able to do it in some smaller cases. We're able to do it during some of these. But at the end of the day, this event, I could have had everything on everywhere, and we wouldn't be able to keep up with the demand over the number of days. I could have everything filled and every pump running and for days on end. We were pumping out of our plants more water than we can make across the board for the whole parish.
So if we get a chance to expand the Lions water plant, that would be a pretty good help.
Any
in
expansion
crisis
for
like
any
this.
plant is a step in the right direction.
That-
For these events, I would say on an everyday event, we haven't had much issue outside of these types of events. But a freeze event where our infrastructure, South Louisiana is not built for that reserve capacity for people that are going to run their water all the time. An expansion for that, it needs to happen.
Okay, Blake, we'll schedule that ride through next week.
Okay.
Not this week.
I was gonna shoot you another email.
Yeah, give y'all a chance to
Miss Jackie on it.
get y'all a chance to repair some of your new
certainly
leaks.
appreciate that.
And get some of your new leaks. Okay, but the ride through is going to be to repair some of your previous leak in reserve.
Councilman, I appreciate that. Yeah.
Right, because District 3 gave you a head start on leaks during the location. And the other suggestion you made about keeping your pipe from freezing, cutting the water off and letting it run, neither one of them work.
And we got feedback on both of those as well.
Right.
I mean,
Right, neither one of them work. If the temperature dropped down hard enough, okay, Niagara Fall froze a couple of weeks ago. So what chance do water leaking out your pipe have? If the temperature drop low enough. So neither one of those methods work. You just cross your finger and hope it don't happen. Okay, so I think we'll move on to the next item, which is my item.
All right, Mr. Lynch, my day update on abandoned house on East 30th Street, East 23rd Street in Homewood.
And before you even give a presentation, I can probably make it fast for you, okay? Because the issue with the abandoned house, tearing the house down on East 30th Street, we understand that's going to be taken care of. The one in Homewood is a process that's just is going through the motion, going through the process, okay? The other one is on 23rd Street, the one that's supposed to be boarded and secure.
Yes.
The only problem I have is that we need to make sure that we board and secure a house like that periodically we go back and check to make sure it's still in that condition, okay? And tonight I want to report, in the meeting, there is an abandoned house I just found out, on East 20th Street in Reserve. And the way I found that out, okay, there was a theft in the neighborhood. In fact, right out of my backyard. A guy had a dirt bike stolen out of my backyard, out of the back of a truck in broad daylight. Okay, and what happened was, reported to the police, they went looking for the thing, they got information, and, I'm not saying I'm a detective.
Hey, look.
Hey, I saw it in 50th abandoned house.
East 30th Street, 23rd Street.
It's on 30th Street.
In Homewood.
It ended up on 30th Street and it went back. What I'm trying to say is that thing was stashed in the abandoned house. That's where I found it at.
Okay, that was the 20th.
So the key about abandoned houses is we want to make sure that they boarded up. There's not a place where a thief go and put items at, and also where someone can be kidnapped and brought into those situations. So it's very beneficial to the parish, to the resident, to the police department that these buildings are constantly maintained and boarded up. That's the only thing that I'm concerned about. So definitely on East 20th Street, that's a new one that needs to be written up. And I don't have the exact address, but I'll get that to you tomorrow.
And we can find it. If not, we'll find it.
Okay. Thank you.
All right, anyone else? On East 30th or 23rd Street or Homewood?
We finished. We done. Give my stick back. Give my stick. Okay, next on the agenda, Ms. Remedy one was taken care of. We have Mr. Larry Robbery and Mr. Marvin Perlew. Discussion regarding rate fees for the community center.
We'll just, obviously the response is there. We have discussed, back in June, the main source of revenue for the community center has been and remains primarily the film industry. The revenue is supplemented by state appropriation from the hotel motel tax. Over the last several years, it has been fairly steady. There's currently a Netflix production under contract for about $150,000 for about a 6-month period. Typically, the rental fees were reduced, I think in 2014 for nonprofits. They were also reduced prior to that. In 2017, we didn't really have any movie rentals, and the community center generated about $38,000. The annual cost to operate the center is about $275,000, and we're continuing to try to balance the two. There was cooperation. We did lock up for several years for the Dumont Ball, but they worked with the company and negotiated out to allow the community center to earn the $150,000 plus the ancillary revenue that's created by people using gas, eating, and some of our businesses also supporting the movie. We actually had a lunch and learn trying to get businesses or teach them how to do business with the film industry, so again, to continue to support our community. But for the most part, there is a basic baseline for operating the center. It's not possible to do it solely on rentals, but we have been successful at combining movies and some rentals to keep the center moving forward, or keep it operating and not doing so at a loss.
Yes, I realize that we're talking about $38,000. Not, I mean, that's the total revenue was taken in.
Yeah.
That's, but the cost
Was
at
$275.
$275. That's utilities and everything, clean up and grass cutting and everything.
Yes, sir. They have their own budget. Community center has its own budget, so all the items, insurance, everything that goes for that building is included in their line item. In their individual budget. Is there something y'all recommending?
Well,
Go ahead, Butch.
That's good.
Yeah,
I'm recommending that we lower that rental fee because I'm still getting a lot of people calling saying that the fee is too high to rent this facility. They're going to St. James, using the boat club, they're using the Kenner Pavilion, and if they rent this place here, they have to rent the chairs, they have to set up for decoration up, so it's eating into the budget. It's just a big space we're renting over there, and I'm getting a lot of complaints. I don't know about the other council members, but I was looking to lower that rental fee per individual hall, atrium, A and B, about $300 lower. If the council in favor of it, I'll offer a motion to do it. If not, then we move on, let it stay as it is. But as it is right now for the atrium, I was looking to reduce the fee from $925 to $600, from room A from $1,725 to $1,400, and room B from $2,350 to $2,000. So I'm looking to do that if the council so willing. I'll wait to hear some more comment from them. If not, we'll leave it as is. So I'll just yield it to the council right now and hear from them.
And let me say this: the EDC set up a committee to review this policy and procedure. We also spoke with our CAO, and she had found some more information that was prepared by Joe Banner. One of the things that we thought that we could do was to look at what is the best use of the facility, and also identify whether or not the cost was prohibiting use. There are some other things that prohibit the use. One of the things that we've noticed though is that we have to be a little careful about adjusting the rates any more due to this continued conversation of what gratuitous donations or gratuitous fund giving would give away. If we reduce the rates anymore, we're technically doing what we now know that we kind of shouldn't. So, the gratuitous giving, the fact that we're giving away a public fund at a reduced rate,
We're not giving it away, we're charging a fee.
we are, but we were
I
charging.
mean, I was told if we charge $1, you're still charging a fee.
Right, but we're charging a fee knowing that we're not taking in enough to carry the operation.
We never did, regardless if we rent it
I
or
agree.
don't
I
rent it.
understand
If the
that.
movie don't come, we still gotta pay that fee on that.
And I think what he's attempting to say is for a rental, we have to supply employees, cleaning service, and it's costing us more than we're coming in for individual events. We're not looking at the whole year, because clearly, you know, we can't plan an event for every day that we could collect, but for each event that we're hosting, it's costing us more to support the event than we're taking in. So that's, I think, what Jerry's referencing with regard to, so we're actually expending public funds for a private event.
Well, I am looking at it, if that place is rented 4 or 5 days out the week at a lower rate, it will defer the cost of what we're paying. We're not using that building at all right now, zero. We're counting on a movie to come in. I didn't vote for a movie when I voted for that building. I voted for recreation, and previous council members changed it to a sound stage. Never was in favor for that, never in favor for it now. It should be as is for the residents to come and rent their place and use it for party, for picnics, for whatever it seems that they be fitted to do over there. So I'm still looking to lower the rent on that place, but I yield it to my other council members to see what they think about it. Because I know I get calls about it, and I'm sure most of them do. And if they're not in favor, we move on. But that's where I am right now.
We do get phone calls and concerns about this as well, which is why I brought it up to the EDC committee, because we're getting concerns about it. One of the things that we discussed, and I can't recall, I want to say that a few of us met in regards to this situation, is the fact that the structure, the building is so big till the cost to decorate for even weddings or for any type of playing events, even like Crew de Monde, for instance, it costs a lot to cover up a lot of concrete and bricks and to decorate that facility. So a lot of times whenever you do, a lot of reasons why you do get a lot of people to complain about the initial cost to rent the facility is because they're having to worry about how to decorate and hide the facility in their decorating. And so one of the things that we had discussed and we had talked about, but there was never any mention of funding source or where it would come from, is to do an annex to the building to create smaller rooms where community citizens could rent out the facilities, could have access to it, and it be done in such a way that it would reduce the burden of having to decorate it, decorating a room that would be sizable. One of the things that we discussed in our meeting today is it's problematic whenever, and it speaks to a huge problem, whenever you're decorating or whenever you're hosting events in a hallway and calling it an atrium, because that's theoretically what it is. It's a hallway, and it just speaks to the fact that there's no middle venue to rent between that large, humongous room that's still large but smaller than the humongous room, and then the hallway. And so I can see where you're wanting to reduce the rates. That's still going to be something that we're going to have a discussion about amongst the committee. But we also really would need to look at expanding that facility and then identifying how to pay for the expansion in order for us to be able to really have what I call true benefit for that facility.
And you said committee, you talking about EDC?
Yeah.
Because we talked about that back in November, Mr. Sarapu.
Correct.
And we was waiting to hear something, or October, haven't heard anything.
Correct.
So now it's time to do something, because we didn't hear no reply. We heard it was working on the bylaws, and that was going to be included in some of that. Nothing came back.
Right.
I waited. I've been waiting 3 months now. I still hadn't got nothing back, so I'm tired of waiting. So I say, if you didn't act, we will. And I don't have to wait on the committee to tell me what I need to do with that building at all. It's up to the council what they want to do with it.
That's true.
So if the council befitting, they want to do that, and I'm still waiting to hear from them. I heard from Mr. Saraparu, and I know Mr. Maidere probably get calls on it. I want to see what they want to do. If they want to leave rent as is, we leave it as is. But if they want to reduce it, let's do it.
Thank you. And Jerry, I'm actually glad you brought up that point because that's kind of the point that I wanted to bring up. I know we've talked about this a lot, even going back to the previous term, and I did have a lot of conversations with Joe Banner at the time, on site, and I believe it was at a public meeting. Um, we talked about getting to the root of the problem on why people weren't booking it, and it wasn't the response that I was getting was from Joe was that it wasn't so much the rates, but it was the cost to retrofit the center and decorate it to what they wanted it to be. And I think that posed to be a greater problem, which is when the council started discussing the possibility of renting out Regala Gym, because it was set up more like a community center. That way, it was also a smaller venue. Obviously, the cost to operate it were much smaller. So maybe we also need to have conversations with the tourism commission to make sure they are maybe diverting those people who decide not to book the center to the parish to let them know that Regala Gym is still an option. Also, I know we had a problem with a lease agreement, I want to say the last couple of council meetings because of fair market value. I would be a little hesitant on lowering the rates tonight just to make sure we do a fair market value study because we want to make sure we're not doing a gratuitous donation, and certainly want to get the district attorney's office involved in that also because that was a problem at the time. And I certainly don't want to put us in any type of liability situation here. But I think that's maybe the first step. Look at the fair market value. You know, obviously we have made reductions in rent. Our facility is very unique. You know, it's not maybe a apples to apples with some of the facilities that they are renting, but we certainly don't want to take them away, but to drive the residents away. But we also want to make sure that they know that they have other options. We have other facilities that can accommodate their needs maybe a little more.
Okay, I'd like to make a comment before I get to you, Mr. Snyder. Concerning this Contouris donation, well, I can make a comment without passing it, as done before. Okay, Contouris donation, that don't apply to that building because you can't make a Contouris donation to something that the parish already owns. The taxpayers, that's the taxpayers building. Okay, that's the taxpayers building. Now these other people that wanted us to give them money beforehand, we didn't own that. That was a separate company. Okay, this building belongs to the taxpayers. Okay, everything that have St. John the Baptist Parish is taxpayers' money. Okay, so you're not giving money, so you can't be giving money to me. It's my building. Okay, we want to use it. Okay, and we can lower it down to anything we want. How do we know we getting the right amount of value from the movie industry? They might be getting a hell of a deal. Wait a minute.
Oh, I'm sorry, I thought you were.
I'm finished. I'm gonna let you know.
No, I'm sorry.
Okay, but what I'm saying is, how do we know we charging them enough money? They be getting a sweetheart of a deal. So why can't the citizens of St. John the Baptist Parish get a sweetheart of a deal of a building that they already own? So if we want to drop the fee, I don't see a problem in it. Okay, and for someone to say that an individual is going to, it's not because of the fee, that's impossible. What person would not rent that building if it was comparable to Regala Park, or to the gymnasium, or something else? The reason why that building is not being rented out because the average citizen can't afford to pay $900 to use that thing. Okay, so if you drop it down to $600 or whatever Mr. Perry want, I guarantee more individuals use it because it'd be more in what they're aligned to pay. So to say that is not a reason, that's not a good statement. That's not a false statement. And to compare us lowering the fee for our citizens for a gratuitous donation, no, we own the building. They own the building. It's not a private building.
Councilman, first I want to make sure that I'm completely transparent about this situation, and I hope Councilman Pearlou did not think that I was trying to throw any type of, curveball, so to speak, in this conversation. Just based off of some of the things that I've reviewed, I just felt that before you guys make a decision tonight and take a vote, I just wanted you guys, before you make that decision, to allow legal to look at it just to make sure that it was nothing that could implicate anything. That's what I meant by that statement, and it was not to place you guys in a corner, but it was really to kind of make sure you guys didn't get placed in a corner. And so I hope that gets clarified.
Okay, but before you respond, Mr. Snyder had something I wanted to say.
Thank you. A couple of things. As shown on the sheet here, we got setup fees waived for River Parish resident. That will be Parish residents.
Where we at? I'm
Right
sorry.
right under the bracket on the top. Setup fees setup fees waived for River Parish resident.
Set fees.
The first sentence underneath the prices.
Okay, dash.
No, not on that sheet. Not on this sheet here. On this other sheet. The rental rates. The rental rates.
You guys have somebody on have.
Oh, I don't know. I don't know.
Oh, can I
Yeah.
grab one from you?
Yeah, that's rental rates.
None of us don't have that.
Oh no?
Okay.
No.
So the setup fee. Okay. So the setup fee is the cost that is the price that a facility charges for you to come in. You're not having your
No,
ability.
I'm not saying. I'm saying that, but I see it's waived for River Parish residents. The River Parish residents include St. James and St. Charles.
Correct.
That's what I look at it.
Correct.
So we're gonna waive fees for them?
That's something that I look. This is my first time even knowing that this was waived. To be quite honest with you, that even helps. That helps attract even more people to use the facility. To be honest with you,
And that's the reason
I'm not
for that?
speaking in reference to River Parish as a whole, but by definition, St. John the Baptist Parish more so. And I'm kind of happy to see, not necessarily River Parish, but I'm happy to see that that's something that's waived as an incentive for St. John the Baptist residents. So.
Okay. So right now it costs us $275,000 to run this thing for a year.
Yes, sir.
Okay? Now, so that means that's somewhere in the neighborhood of $22,000, $23,000 a month.
Yes, sir.
And that breaks down to about $763 a day. When we first got in office, I looked into this. It was $1,500 a month for that thing to sit there. Okay? Now, that $275,000, that's taking everything except toilet paper. Am I right?
No, that takes.
Taking toilet paper too? Okay,
sir.
great. That's good. That's what I want to know. So if we rent this thing for $1,000 for one day, we'd be making a profit of $763.89 a week. A week. Yes, ma'am.
That cost does not include the cost for the rental, like the cost to us to have staff, to have, like, this is just the operation
That's
of the
just the
building.
overhead cost.
Right.
You
So
have
if
the daily
we
costs associated with every event.
if we don't do anything to that building,
It costs us $275,000.
it costs us right now. It costs us $22,000. Somewhere in here with $22,000 a month.
Yes, sir.
Am I right? I'm
And so the more events that you actually have at the center drives up that cost even more. This is just basic. This is last year's basic. We didn't have any movies in there. We just had community events, and we accrued $38,000 in revenues from no movies, nothing, just community events. And so we accrued $38,000 from that from last year. I want to make sure I'm not misquoting. Okay, $38,000, and so because we accrued $38,000 and it's $275,000, we lost somewhere around 175 somewhere to that 125 to that amount.
And actually, our employees are probably coming out of their own budget, so
They are.
the community center doesn't account for the staffing and other, people that we put there. We usually just pay for their work out of their existing budget. So it's not really reflective of everything. Difficult to discuss. We've looked at this before. I welcome another discussion. I did request on your behalf. I think one of our last meetings, one of the firms that did the original work at no cost, I asked them to do a schematic to address the concerns we had from our meeting. So hopefully we'll have that. The other thing that we talked about was, again, we struggle with trying to do movies and rent it. If we focus on movies and getting that revenue that would exceed the cost to run it, then maybe we can invest that in like an adjoining building that might be more amenable to our residents. but it's very difficult, and I know that's how it was set up from the beginning, trying to find that balance between our residents and what generates the revenue. And we haven't quite found that. But the other thing that I think, Mr. Snyder, you'd requested was, why don't we get trade shows? Why don't we get other types of events? Well, the facility, the is not designed for what they need. So we took a basic layout for what conventions are looking for and provided that to the design firm that built the building to try and get them to do a layout. Now, of course, their price is out of the roof, but again, a mechanism to support that might be through generating additional revenue through the movies. But something to consider and look at. But we would have to pull all of the other costs associated with the event, which is not included in what you're looking at, because we have those in other budgets.
And most people rent that, then they're gonna rent it for a day. Okay? They rent it for a day. And even with, if it just sit there, it causes us to save amount of money. If you break that down into days per year, the 275,000 divided by 365 days, I mean, what it comes out to? A few $100s? And just to sit there with everything. So if we rent that thing for $1,500 or $1,200, we got set up. They know they got setups over there. We can look at that also. But I'm saying that we can please our people who pay for that thing over there, or who's paying for it over there, and at the same time, help freight the cost that we have to pay to keep it going, whether the insurance, grass cut, and all that other stuff. That's what I'm looking. I'm sure that was Mr. Pearl was looking at. Mr. Pearl was looking at also. Now, as far as these breakaways and things that way, I'm more concerned about our people using it, and I'll preach this from day one. We can put dividers in there easy enough. So like St. Charles Parish got down, they got dividers. They just drop them down, divide the thing off into quarters. They can do that. That's easy to done. That's easy to be done. I was told that bleachers, basketball court, volleyball court set up. We got the money in our treasury right now to do that. We haven't done anything with it. That's what I was told from this administration. That we already got the money to do that. We don't need to go borrow money, and we don't need to get no more taxes. We got the money to do that because we had a price on it. But you see, it seemed like this council is too concerned about St. John Parish resident using this thing at a reasonable rate. And everybody else concerned about the movie theater using it. All right, if right now they bring in $100,000, that's fine for 6 months. Okay, that's fine. That's great. But there could be a 6 months they may not be in there. So why not make it beneficial for our people to use this thing at a lower rate? I'm all for that, this lower rate. I really am. And I'm for equipping it, whereas we can have other things in there too. Our kids right now don't have anywhere to practice basketball. They got to go to schools, and sometimes the schools are jammed up because the teams have practice, and so they got to find places to go at a time they can't make it. They don't have anywhere to practice. We can have 3 or 4 teams practicing at one time in that civic center over there. Practicing at one, just practice, and they all be in one little spot. We can have that if we spend a few dollars and and do what we got to do over there. We can have that. See that floor in there right now? You can play basketball on that the way it is right now. You don't have to put no floor in there to practice on. You can play in there on the way it is right now. But the way it is right this minute. All you got to do is put goals in there, put some bleachers on the side. And I know in this day and age, we can partition that thing off into quarters. And it's big enough for anybody to have any kind of balls they want in there with just curtains. Because it's done all over the place. But we're not receptive to that right now, it seems like. So let's do it.
No, I got it in order. The mic all right.
Thank you. Mr. Minor, I just wanted to kind of respond to your comments earlier. I don't think there was a suggestion that lowering the rates would constitute a gratuitous donation. The concern, no.
Not you.
The concern for me was that if we do lower them tonight without having further discussions with the Tourist Commission, Ms. Banner, who regularly manage this facility and book these events and take these and field these calls, as well as the District Attorney's Office when negotiating these rates because of the similar instance was at Tesh Action Clinic. You know, we want to make sure too that we're not putting ourselves in a gratuitous donation or any sort of liability. I'm all for lowering the rates if it's allowable. But I think before we do it tonight, we kind of maybe get all the stakeholders at the table to make sure that we reach a more comparable resolution.
Okay, I'm gonna respond after I go take my turn later.
Just from my experience having dealt with the center for a little bit, I'd love to say we could run it 365 days out of the year, but never in the years I was here did anybody look for it on a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. They're not looking for it. Maybe a Thursday, Friday, Saturday, or Sunday. We say make the changes we need. We need to change the size of the doors. I had someone searching around before it was completed, telling us, before you finish this door, you might want to change it. It's too small. You can't have a boat show. You can't have this type of show. They want that in place. They don't want to trip over wires. I know you can cover wires, but they want them in the ground so that in the flooring that nobody's got to walk around wires and worry about things like that. Dividing up the area with curtains or whatnot. We have a slanted ceiling. I think it goes from 27 to 43 or something like that. When people want to divide up and have say the VFW wanted to have something there one year. Well, we can't divide it up to make it soundproof. They want to make presentations. They want to make certain things happen that you can't hear from room to room. You'd have to flatten that roof, make it even all the way across. I'm just saying there's a little bit more to it than just say, let's do this, you do that. I'm not saying it's not a good idea. I think it's a great idea. But one thing, and it's just is trying to have the best of both worlds. We know with a movie you take in money. No one specialized in commercials. Commercials, when we have a commercial, 2-3 days tops, they out. They in, out, clean, nothing. Why don't we try with the Tourist Commission to become the niche for the commercials. I'm sure these other big centers don't want to tie up a whole studio for a commercial for 3 days and miss out an 8-month movie. So it's just a way to maybe get the best of both worlds. Try to get that instead of an actually lengthy stay. And they pay very well. It's just food for thought. I didn't think it was the solution to anything, but it's just other things to think about that we would have to do. But it would be nice to allow the public to do more in the building. And I think the rates are that high. No, I don't. You look for a place for your daughter's wedding reception and things, $900 and something is not a lot of money for that. But as Jerry was saying and other people, the fact that there are no tables, there are no chairs, you got to decorate it. And if we did invest in tables and chairs, which you did for a while, you can't ever let anybody take them out the building. Once one goes out, all of them are going to disappear, and you're forever buying tables and chairs. So those are just some of the costs that I know we have to cover. But it's a good idea to consider that. It really is. I don't think it's wrong, but I agree with Michael. I think we need to look a little deeper into it and see what we can have come up. Thank you.
Yes, I know we've visited this terrain a number of times, and like Mr. Perilou and Mr. Snyder and everybody else is saying, I get stopped every day from people asking, when can we rent this building? Or y'all not going to rent the building? People are asking questions, but I think the mark has been passed that the building is not being able to rent. And right now with the movie company, they have it tied up for movies. I'm not against making movies, but the building was put there by taxpayers' dollars to serve the community. So if we spend $250,000 on the Undue Fest, let's eliminate the Undue Fest and put it into this building. Okay? Lowering the rates. We're going to invite people to come in and want to use it. We're going to have events that can come here that can draft and bring economic development out to this community. They're going to spend dollars. So if we lower these rates tonight, all we're going to do is make it appetizing for people to say, hey, we're here for business. This building can be used, and also we can go back to getting into recreational stage for recreational uses. So I'm all in favor for if you want to roll a nickel tonight, let's pull a lever and roll. Roll tonight. Let's lower the rates.
Okay, got a couple of comments, then we'll make a decision on this with Mr. Pearl, which way you want to go. When I talk about a continuous donation, I wasn't referring to when you said it. I'm referring it back to when it was mentioned at the podium. Okay, we can't compare what South Central wanted and what we want with this building.
Oh, I'm not mentioning
No, I'm mentioning it. No, I'm mentioning it because that's where it's come from. That's where it's come from.
I think it's Tash, not South Central.
Well, no, we had that with South Central too about this continuous donation. That's where it come from. That's what was brought to the attention of this council, that type of donation. Okay, but it can't be compared because this building is actually owned by the taxpayer. Everything you talking about money that's being spent on that building, that's taxpayers' money that's paying. It's not out of your pocket, it's not out of my pocket, it's out of the people in this community pocket. This bill that you talking about, they pay every month. It's their building, it's their bill, it's their money. So you can't compare and make that statement a mesh with that. Now, either we have the authority to lower the price, this council do. Okay, not any person that work at that building. Okay, all that relies in the hands of the council. We determine the price of that building. If we want to lower it by 500, we want to lower it by 900. So if 800, we can do it. It's our power. No one else. Okay, you only make suggestions. We make decisions on that building. Now, as far as the movie industry go, okay, they do more damage to that building than any citizen do to that building. If you go walk on that cement floor, Mr. Sly talking about playing basketball, they drill holes into that floor every single time they get in that building. Okay, and all you can go, if you want to take a walk through that building, look at the scars on that floor. And all they do is pass a little something on it to kind of close the hole up. So that they are actually damaging the building, even though they're paying for it, they're damaging it. Okay, and we're not able to use it, so we can't even damage it. Okay, and it's our building. So I don't have a problem lowering it for the people in this community to use it, make it more inviting to them. Okay. And one other thing too, we have on all these examples, we have an atrium, and other people have lobby and grand hall and man halls and lobbies. Okay, I don't know why the atrium can't be lower and used as a room. And as far as like Mr. Snyder said, breaking these rooms up, these big large rooms, office buildings do it all the time. When you go to some of these big office buildings, they have cubicles. This one here and this one there. So don't tell me you can't break that building up. You can break it up any kind of way you want. You can use curtain or you can use solid thing to break it up. Okay? Now, you may not have it, but you can get it. There's no way in the world I can take that atrium and get somebody in here and break the thing up into 10 different rooms if I wanted to. Just tell them the size. And as far as the top, I know went to conventions, teachers convention, and police jury convention, and that's what they have. Cubicles with no tops on it. And you're not going to have 10 different things in there at one time. So when you talk about soundproof, you don't need it to be soundproof because there'll be only one group of people in there. You don't need the soundproof if you have a wedding that you condense the size down. There's not going to be another wedding next door. And if it is, we all dance to the same music. Turn it on. Let them hear it. Okay? Somebody save money on the DJ. Okay, but I'm saying if we want to lower the price, it's in the power of this council to do it. Okay, and I think the citizens deserve to use that building as much as anybody from Hollywood. Mr. Pelgrim?
Yeah, well, on that, I heard from the council, but I'm going to offer motion to lower the rental for, on these different halls, atrium, room A, room B, by $300 across the board to lower the rent. That's my motion to do it. Chairman, that's what I offer a motion.
Okay, I have a motion on the table. Let me get a second. Second by Mr. Snyder. Okay, any comments? Any more comments? Okay, we can't make comments on this motion. Okay, the motion already in place. Okay, no questions? Okay. Well, I just asked for that. Okay, but he can't. It's here. It's the council, not public. Okay, the motion's been made. Okay.
Just for clarification.
Mm-hmm.
Typically,
right
you guys make a motion and then
Wait a minute,
ask
hold
for
on, wait a
discussion.
minute.
Right?
I'm acting legal. I'm correct. That's right. Discussion amongst the board, not out in the public anymore. I know I was right.
Typically,
Don't
do
be
that for us
confused.
to discuss.
Yeah, we've been discussing. Okay, now a motion has been made, it was second, so public discussion is over. The only discussion now is above, between the
But how
council.
can we discuss if we don't know the motion?
I said,
So,
no,
like,
no, hold on. Wait a minute.
Wait, I'm
Wait,
just
wait,
trying
wait,
to
no,
ask
no, 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 you wait a minute, I'm gonna explain it to you,
Oh, please.
okay? We was discussing this whole item, this whole time, been discussing this item. Now, a motion was made by Mr. Pearl, and it was second, so that ends that discussion.
Can I
Now,
ask
the
you
only
something?
discussion you can have is concerning the motion, and that goes to the council people up here, okay? And we're not gonna have a debate on it, because I have legal over here that says we right. So the only person that can discuss it now, it's not anyone sitting out here, it's the one sitting here. So, Mr. Wright,
I have a question.
you don't have a question, you don't have you don't have anything.
Thank
Mr.
you,
Wright.
Mr. Chairman. Mr. Green, may I invite dialogue from administration? Thank you. Before this goes to a vote and discussion continues, I just want to make another comment. I will abstain from voting for this, not because I'm against lowering the rates, but like I said before, the comparison I use and will continue to use was something that the district attorney's office brought before us that involved a actual lease agreement and the rates that were discussed, not South Central planning, and that in fact was a problem at the time, and that's why I am going to abstain. I will ask our CFO to speak because he did have a comment.
Thank you, Councilman.
Wait a minute. He asked, I grant. Okay. You have the floor now.
Thank you, Councilman. I was trying to allude to what Jerry was trying to talk about earlier about gratuitous donations and to what Mr. Wright was saying. It's not so much as the gratuitous donation in the sense that it costs us roughly $275,000 a year to operate the facility. That's just overhead expenses. When there's an event that we're charging roughly $900 for, if it costs us $1,000 to operate that event, then legally there's $100 of gratuitous donation there because we're knowingly operating at a higher expense. That's what I believe Mr. Wright was talking to, where we need, and I think that's what Jared was trying to allude to. So we need to understand what the actual cost is per day, per hour, per week. As Councilman Pearl alluded to, renting it for 4 or 5 days. Once we have those numbers, then we can come back and say, okay, well, for a parish individual, maybe we only charge them $50 over our costs. But until we understand those costs, I believe that's what Jerry was trying to allude to, and what Councilman Wright is alluding to, is that, again, if it costs us $1,000 to send employees there to turn on the lights, because again, it's sitting there, but not all the lights are on. When you have an event, now more lights come on. When you have an event, we have to clean up. You're using more AC, more heat. You have additional workers. If we're putting down new floors, picking up floors, chairs, etc., there's additional costs there. And without understanding the costs, to sit here and charge a lower rate where we're losing money every single time we walk in the door, then that's what I believe Jerry was alluding to when he said a gratuitous donation. Not in the true sense of what you're talking to, Councilman.
Okay, I just want to say something concerning that. Now, you said if we lower the rate and someone used the building and it actually costs more, as you saying, explain that part to me again.
Okay.
Because I want to make sure I understood that.
Aside from the $275,000 that it costs to operate the facility on an annual basis, every time there's an event, there's additional costs that are incurred. Now you have more lights on for a longer period of time. We've got more staff there to manage the party, security, clean up, etc. The cost associated with each event increases. Well, there's an additional cost there, I'm sorry. There's an additional cost for every event. And that's what we need, and we don't, and I don't have those numbers, and I believe that's what Councilman Wright was alluding to do a fair market value, to find out exactly what those costs are. And I believe once we have those costs, I think we can all sit back and make an obvious decision on what the rate should be, because we know what it costs to operate the facility when there's an event. I'm not talking about just the overhead expenses that we're looking at now that's in the budget. Because with every event, there's additional costs. Because again, as they pay $900, we're not making $900 on that. Again, I don't know the numbers, but I can guarantee you we're only making probably 50%, maybe 30%, maybe even 20% is an actual profit for the parish. Because the other 80% goes to the cost associated with having that event. And that's what I believe Jerry was trying to speak to, and that's what I believe Councilman Wright was alluding to when he talked about doing some type of fair market study, which shouldn't be that difficult. I believe it's something fairly simple that we could put together. And then again, once you have those numbers in front of you, Councilman, I believe it'd be pretty. Again, it may cost us $400 a day to operate it for an event. So then reducing it by $300 may be the obvious choice.
Well, here's the thing. In a perfect world, we'd love to do exactly what you say and make money. Okay, but that building and the people involved and the amount of money you're asking to pay, it's never going to work out that way. I'm not even sure we're getting enough money from the movie industry because they over there 24/7. It's open all day, all night. Okay, now, my suggestion is when nobody using it, put everybody out. Turn the lights off.
Understood. But
Okay. Just understand what I'm saying. You're not getting charged if everything off. Okay. We have people in that building right now that should be paying. They at least went out and they're still using it. Okay. And that's another discussion. Okay. But what I'm saying is, we want this building to be used by the citizens of St. John the Baptist Parish. Okay. And the way it is broke down money-wise right now, they can't afford to use it. Okay, they cannot afford to use it. All right, and it was put there for the purpose of the citizens of St. John the Baptist Parish to use it. It was there. That's what it was proposed to before I became a council member. Okay, and it has been anything but that. Okay, it's been anything but what's sold to the people. In other words, we sold them a bag of goods. Okay, you got them to vote for it, and now you can't use it. We got a discussion now of how to get them to use it, and we getting feedback and trying how not to let them use it. Everybody should be pulling in the same direction to try to find every feasible way for us to lower it and allow them to use it. Okay, that's the key. Okay, not talking about how much we lost and lose, because we lose every day. Okay, we losing in utilities every day, much more than what we losing in that civic center. Okay, so I think the people of St. John the Baptist Parish pay taxes on that building every single day, and they deserve to use it. Okay, and I'm willing, to vote on this thing tonight, and let the vote fall where it may. Okay, if it pass, we lower it. If it don't. Okay, we have a motion on the floor by Mr. Malcolm.
Yeah, just quick question. How long would it take you to come up with the daily norm of what it actually costs to run the building with all these additional fees?
I'm strictly guessing here. I don't believe it would take long. I think we've got a lot of data already in front of us. I haven't dove into this just yet, but and maybe the parish president and the CEO can allude a little bit more, but I don't believe it would take that long to come up with that information.
I don't either. I think within a week or so, obviously what we look at, we have the events, we have contracts, we know how much they charge, we know how much they cost. We would have to pull, the individuals assigned, what they were paid, what the additional cleanup costs would be. Again, those are numbers that we have for regular events. We probably would have to break it up into when it's the atrium versus one or the other rooms, or if it's the entire facility. There's obviously different rates depending on what they use. I do think it's something that can be done. Obviously, we don't have it, with us right now. Just for clarification, and I hope that's not the impression. We have no reservations about our residents utilizing the facility at all. As a matter of fact, we encourage it, we promote it. We think it makes a nice space. Again, some people who can, they decorate it really nicely. The atrium, although some people refer to it as a hallway, is the prettiest portion of the building with all the glass and the decorations and the flooring. So many people find that to be satisfactory. But we have been looking at things a little bit differently. And I do recall, and the West Bankers may also as well, the school board had a practice of allowing use of some of the West Bank schools at either a reduced rate or no rate. And they were reprimanded for that and had to establish fees commensurate with what their costs were, and that was a couple of years back. I don't have the specific numbers. when the initial rates were set, and it was early on in the process, we never wanted to make a profit off of this. Since I've been involved, the rates were never set to make a profit off of our residents. They were only set to cover the cost associated with hosting or managing the event. It didn't take into account the year-long requirements for maintaining. It was strictly based on what is it costing the parish to provide setup. For example, we don't charge for setup, but somebody has to be there. We don't give you the key to the building. Somebody has to be there with you while you're doing your setup. When it's time to take down, somebody has to be at the building with you. During your event, and we actually, during the contract negotiation, they will request. We typically have people assigned to the restrooms because we've had incidences there where they need people there to empty garbage, to deal with spills, to, deal with things that go on during the event, and we can't not have somebody on site. So depending on the number of people attending the event determines the amount of support that you're provided. So again, we don't really want to make money off of our residents. We just don't want to lose money on paying staff out of other departments to work it and not being compensated for it. So we'll be happy to go back and take a look at what those numbers might be. There may be room to lower it now that we're better at it. We've had some years of practice. I think possibly streamline, the number of people that we assign to man events, but many times we get requests from the actual people leasing it on what they want there in terms of 2 people here or help with this or, and so that's what we actually assign.
Okay,
So those
so-
numbers should be available.
Clarification, Councilman Perilou, what your motion is strictly for St. John Baptist residents, and not for the rest of the state of Louisiana to come in here. You want to lower it specifically for our residents.
Well, I'm looking to lower it just across the board.
Across the board.
And whoever want to use it. Now,
Okay.
What they're saying, if they're, I'm sorry, I don't have it.
Go ahead.
You do now.
You got it.
We had a motion on the floor, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, I know. Well, we don't call for the questions. You gotta call.
But anyway, if we want to wait 2 weeks, I can withdraw my motion and table it to get the feedback from our CFO, and then we could proceed in 2 weeks. I'm willing to draw my motion back and motion to table it. If Mr. Snyder want to pull his back, we can do that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Whatever best.
Then I'll motion to table it on administration coming back with that information that Mr. Mallett asked for and Mr. Wright, and we can proceed from there.
Okay, Mr. Wright, you have a comment?
Just real quick, thank you, Mr. Perilou, because in addition to that, we may be able to even, on some of the larger rooms, lower it more than 300. So that's why I suggested a fair market. But real quick, I don't see in here, but I think the council had approved rental rates for the parking lot. I don't see that on here.
There are rental rates for the parking lot, but it's not listed on there, and it should be. We'll take a look at that.
Okay, and you just get that all to us in the same presentation?
I don't wanna call a number off the top of my head, but.
No, that's fine.
But I don't think we charge residents when they rent
No.
the facility for the parking lot.
No,
Sometimes there are
there's a
events
separate
there.
just for the parking lot.
Right.
Yeah, right.
But that's only whenever the movies and other, like, outside, not parish residents, we don't charge them to park their cars.
We've had events that have just used the parking lot,
Correct.
Relay for Life,
Right.
car shows,
Yes.
and that's what I was referring to. Okay.
Okay, Mr. Perilou withdrew his motion and Mr. Snyder withdrew his second. Okay, and now they made a motion to table, and I need a second. Second by Mr. Wright. Okay, I know there's no discussion on this one, so use your lights.
Okay, that carries 6 in favor, 1 absent, 1 abstaining, and 1 against.
Okay, all right, there is no executive session.
No, sir.
Okay, there's no ordinance. Okay, presidential remarks.
Well, I was actually going to start with the weather, but I think we've beaten that to death. But again, we're moving into some normal weather. We are going to try to put together some responses based on what happened, based on some of the discussion you've had, some of what we've gotten from residents to try and be more proactive. We use words that we think people know, like weatherize your home, freeze precaution, but everybody may not know what that is. The other thing that we encourage everyone to do, and it's not happening, is to sign up for our alerts. Thank you guys for taking them and accepting them, but there are people who usually during the event, because they're not getting it, we'll get 70 people sign up that day. But we need people to sign up for these alerts so that they are aware of things as they happen. As Mr. Snyder said, Bailey does an excellent job of communicating quickly. We use every medium possible, but if you're not at your house, you can't see the government access channel. If you're not at your house, you can't listen to the cable override. But if you have your phone with you, you can get a voicemail, text message, or some type of email indicating what is happening in the parish. So that is critical because that is our means of communication, those types of alerts. So again, we're hoping to stay warm for a little while. Again, Blake discussed the number of calls, the number of systems with problems, but I do want you all to know it wasn't just utilities, even though they were out there. We had public works guys up to their knees in water. We had inspectors, we had firefighters taking pressures throughout the parish. So it is any type of event really takes all of us, and I do want to thank all of them because it was very cold, sometimes wet, and they did a great job. Let's see what else is happening here. We also have, the sheriff's office is there with us. They're using their cameras to monitor. They had extra officers on patrol. They were also looking for leaks. We actually showed them what backflow preventers were so they know what to look like. Again, for our residents, we're not just looking for water that's dripping. Sometimes it's frozen. If you see ice in places that you don't normally see ice, it's likely that there was a leak that had frozen. So we kind of talked through a lot of what was going on. Of course, we had them there to deal with some of the road closures and traffic incidents, unfortunately, that occurred during that time. Again, we typically will encourage you to stay off the roads during that icy roadways because we do not drive well in that. We don't drive well on any day, but clearly with ice, we struggle with that. So we do want our residents to be safe and stay inside when that recommendation is made. We'd also like to thank everyone who came out for the Martin Luther King Jr. Day celebrations, both Pastor Baring and other local pastors, the West Bank Civic Association, elected officials, community groups, students, and staff. All came out for the two events within the parish. We want to thank them for doing that. Both events were well attended and actually was a good reflection on Dr. Martin Luther King. Congratulations to A to Z Wireless on their recent grand opening. They recently renovated the store, which is located at 1036 West Airline Highway, number 119 in Cambridge Corner in Laplace. Rami Ade and his team offer exceptional deals on phones and equipment, as well as phone and screen repairs. We encourage you to please visit the store. We'd also like to congratulate St. Charles Catholic High School on their grand opening and ribbon cutting earlier today for their newly renovated gym and school. I know they'll be having a mass in the new chapel. If you haven't had an opportunity to visit, they've done an excellent job. I'm sure the students, parents, staff, and of course there were quite a few alumni there celebrating with them. Mardi Gras season is here. Just a reminder that our parades are set to roll. Tuapasa will roll in reserve at 12 o'clock p.m. on Saturday, February 10th, and Creux du Monde parade will roll in Laplace at 11 a.m. Sunday, February 11th. Both parades will follow their traditional routes and streets will be closed approximately 15 minutes before the parade arrives. Our parades are growing each year. Again, we want to encourage our residents to pick up after themselves after the parade. Yes, we have cleanup crews out there, but if you bring a bag and pick up your garbage when you leave, that helps a great deal. The Department of Transportation and Development will be closing Central Avenue at Airline Highway in Reserve Tuesday, January 23rd, beginning at 7 a.m. through Thursday, January 25th at 4 p.m. Due to an emergency culvert replacement, motorists will be detoured to West 10th Street. So we ask that you please proceed with caution in those areas to allow them to make the necessary repairs. We want to also remind you to please continue to look out for work crews and equipment on Belterre Boulevard as they work to wrap up the drainage project. The project is scheduled to be completed in early March, weather permitting. The asphalt overlay will begin once the drainage project is completed, and that's anticipated in late April. The overlay work will take place at night, however, and will require, because they require temperatures to be above 50 degrees at night before the project can begin. Please, that's why there's a delay. Please continue to be on the lookout for work crews, equipment on Belterre as they make these improvements. We do call regularly to make sure their temporary driveways are filled in, because with the rain they tend to get holes. If we miss something, please let us know. It is moving finally, but each time we have these weather events, they're off. So we're anxious as well. It affects all of us, and we're ready for that project to be completed, both with the drainage as well as the overlay, which will go from Airline Highway to the interstate.
Thank you. Mr. Mallett? Okay, Mr. Wright? Mr. Snyder?
I would just like to ask you, Ms. Bailey, when we order those portalets, make sure we place them in a strategic places, okay? So I won't have to walk a mile to get to one. Thank you.
Okay. Ms. Remedy?
No comments tonight, thank you.
Mr. Begnell?
No comments.
Mr. Saraparu?
No comments.
Okay, just one thing I had a question, Mr. Roboto. The young man that was hit by the train yesterday, what was his name? Devontae Moore?
He was a teenager, yes.
Right, Devontae Moore. So I want to send my sympathy out to the family. I went out there when I heard about the accident, but it was a very horrific scene out there, and it was searching all over at the time, trying to find the body at that time, So, I mean, my sympathy go out to that family. Okay, and anyone related to him. Okay, that's it. Entertain a motion to adjourn? Motion by everyone, second by everyone, and everyone said yes. Meeting is adjourned.